of rethinking about what next, okay, to ensure that our developments are sustainable in the sense of the issue of economy. So if we are too focusing on protecting about the health in the context of the social well-beingness of the citizen, without looking on the economy, for the long term, you will affect the country development. So that is why we need a very sustainable approach in our in future of the post COVID or post pandemic. Now I think most of the countries, world country, they are introducing a stimulus package. So this is the best thing that we can propose to the country, because this I think this conference is more on the policy pandemic policy. So I think it's better that we can propose to the worlds. It is good to have this stimulus package, but this stimulus must be more inclined on the sustainable. Should be in a sustainable manner. So, for instance, like we can introduce more on the green approach, okay, green technology. So the way forward will be incorporating more on technology that can assist, that can assist in sustainability in the future. So I would like to share another slide. Next slide. Okay, this is the way forward that on the green. That what I can see is that to achieve a sustainable development, to successful the sustainable development. I'm looking on the approach, the how to go about. It is more on the processes, the role, and the tools. They should be looked into the metrics of the three circle. So if we are talking about the processes like we have been we acquire the knowledge of sustainable. Okay, we acquire the knowledge of sustainable. Then we impart the knowledge of sustainable, mean that we do the learning, we do the teaching, and the process, the third process is how do we practice the knowledge of sustainable. That is the process, the three process in the circle of process. That is the acquiring knowledge, the imparting knowledge, and also the how to practice the knowledge of sustainable. And then we are looking on the role. So role, let's say our role as a teacher, our role as a lecturer, our role as an engineer, our role as the lawmaker, our role as the government employee, whatever our role. So what is our role in ensuring the sustainable of the development? And then the tool, we are looking on the tools. So what are the tools that we need to ensure this? The tools like the technology, the tools like the legal aspect, the enforcement. So these are the tools that can, to assist us in promoting and to assist us in achieving a sustainable development. So I believe that with this conference, because I'm not going to touch in detail the technical aspect of the sustainable, but I touch on the more on the global view, what sustainable from my point of view as an administrator in the university, and also a researcher that is on sustainable construction. The issue of how can we minimize, how can we avoid, how can we avoid or how can we minimize any waste generation, okay, about waste, leakage, and so on and so forth. And then what are the things, what should have the technology to trigger, okay, to trigger, this is, if we can take the issue of sustainable or issue of our environment, similar to what we are confronting now, like COVID-19, the way how we tackle as if we are now in a war with COVID-19. So we must have a similar pattern of thinking as if we are now facing a war on the what I call environment degradation, okay, deterioration and degradation. So this is what approach. So we have to use a multi-pronged approach. Okay, it is not a one-man solution. It's not a one-man solution. It's not a one method solution. It's a combination. It's about awareness. But if we got okay, somebody have to work on the awareness. Somebody have to work on the practice. Somebody have to look on the legal matter. Somebody have to look on the technology. So, but at the end of the day, we need an integration of this. We can't afford to have working in a silo. As what now, I think this is a good. I mean, I try to emulate this environment issue with COVID-19 now. This is United Nations work where everybody should participate. Should everybody participate to get a vaccine? So we are working on very closely inter country, interstate, inter university. That would be a very good approach rather than we are working in a silo. Because working in a silo, basically we are re-engineering the whole thing. So we cannot achieve what we want. So because the knowledge and the technology that we are the technology and the knowledge that we try to uncover, okay, to uncover is maybe the other certain part of the world is already been established. So this is about synergy. So I'm looking on the synergy. I'm looking on the, I'm proposing about the technique, the process of, let's say, optimization. So if the United Nations can have this, the scope of integration, working together with the university, okay, working together with the university, with the respective university, we come up with a very concrete framework, a concrete solution, or concrete in terms of implementation. I think we have all the knowledge of sustainability is there. Okay, the technique is there, but the problem is that what are the issue, the way forward, how to integrate this, how to make the what you call the government of the world understand this issue. So we are very fortunate. I just to share you about Malaysia experience in handling COVID-19 that can be emulated. We were so fortunate that our government listened to our Director General of Health, because these are important. The Director General of Health, he's the key person that integrates and come up that formulate, and alhamdulillah the governments are listening to that. So maybe I can't give you the whole solution, but what I'm trying to emulate the same case as what we are confronting with COVID-19, and can we I can see that there is a success on in world having how do they deal with COVID-19. I think there's a lot of success, irrespective whether you are a developed country or developing country or underdeveloping country. But we can see that COVID-19, it doesn't matter. Even you are developed country also, if you don't really integrate, you don't listen to the right person, okay, you can see now what happened to the developed country. So this is, I think, is a way forward. It's more on the way forward to have some a quantum leap on this sustainable, because as we can see that the rate of deterioration environment is quite fast, but our action is a little bit slow. So to ensure that the world is, the environment is sustainable, so I think we have to move a little bit faster in catching up with the deterioration rate of the environment. I think with that, I up my keynote speech for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ismail.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof.
Yeah, Dr. Vaisam, please go on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for your enlightening speech and keynote speaker. So now we'll move to the next speaker, our honorable speaker, Prof. Shahbaz Khan. Prof. Shahbaz, he is holding a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from University of Engineering and Technology, Lahore, Pakistan, and a Master of Science in Water Resources Technology and Management, and a doctorate in Civil Engineering from the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom. Prof. Shahbaz achieved several other master's and graduate diplomas as well. And currently, he's a director of UNESCO Regional Science Bureau for Asia and Pacific, based on Jakarta, Indonesia. He joined UNESCO in 2008 as the Chief of Water and Sustainable Development Section at UNESCO Division of Water Science based at Paris. His key leadership and management areas at UNESCO include science capacity building and policy advice across the region. He has also coordinated key programs such as water education for sustainable development, hydrology for environment, life and policy, eco-hydrology, and map and water and energy nexus. He was previously research leader of irrigated system and rural water use of CSIRO Australia, and professor of hydrology and the director of International Center of Water and at the Charles Sturt University. So you are welcome, Prof. Shahbaz, and the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Wissam, for a very nice introduction, and Dr. Akram for doing excellent coordination. We just heard from Dr. Ismail, and this is a very important forum. Today, of course, is the World Environment Day. The focus is on celebrating biodiversity. As Dr. Ismail has highlighted, there is a need to work together within the United Nations system, and that's what I represent. I'm going to give you some ideas how we are working in this region and beyond on this concept of sustainable development and sustainability, and very importantly, how do we manage the issues related to biodiversity and what UNESCO's particular programs are. And in this regard, many colleagues who have joined from different countries, most welcome. Hopefully you will be able to get what we are doing in your country. So let me share my screen and give you a presentation. Can you see the presentation?
No, can't.
Okay, let's try again. Okay, right. So, okay, that's good. Technology finally works. So now you can?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So hopefully it's in full screen mode. So the focus is on the nature, and we have this issue of COVID. So we all know that. And there are questions I see in the chat box. I would try to address some of them as well. But first of all, UNESCO, United Nations Education, Science and Cultural Organization, we have a major emphasis on environment. And in environment, there are many fields. And many university stakeholders, governments like Malaysian government, the Indian government, and many others are actively participating in these programs. One of them is International Basic Sciences Program, the chemistry, the geology, the issues related to the physics and all of that. But then we also have a program, Man and Biosphere program, which is at the heart of environment and sustainable development since 1970s. Very important program, which I will introduce to you. And then International Hydrological Program, which is a program since 1960s, and International Geo Program, and Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission. Very importantly, for today's topic, we have UNESCO has an initiative on biodiversity. So very quickly, let me go to what is the global agenda. And in that global agenda, where today fits and policy times, what you can do and what the universities can do together. Today, very important is Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. This is what is signed on by the governments around the world. Within that context, COVID fits. COVID is a pandemic, but at the same time, you can have tsunamis, you can have floods, you can have droughts, you can have cyclones. There is a question about cyclones in our question bank. How do we work together? Before this presentation today, I was working with the BMKG and other colleagues in Indonesia, where we are looking into guidelines for tsunamis during COVID time. Then, of course, you have Paris Agreement and climate change, and the governments have their commitments. How do we make change so that the biodiversity can be conserved, we can have better lives, and we avoid disasters? Also, we must mention world has moved on to sustainable development goals. These are 17 goals, which I will quickly show you, and they are very relevant for today. And the Convention on Biological Diversity, very important for today. There are Aceh goals, and one of those goals is how do we address the causes for biodiversity loss. So that's where your work on the think tank and with the university, very, very important to create that capacity. In these 17 sustainable development goals, which are binding on all nations until 2030, we have to achieve. The concept of sustainable development is all the way through social, economic, environmental. How do we live with people and the planet together? So, from no poverty, zero hunger, very good health and well being, which is our big issue with the COVID. But very importantly, look into Goal 13, climate change, Goal 14, life in the oceans, and Goal 15, what is happening above the land. These are the key challenges for biodiversity, and we are making many more problems. But as was said before, perhaps with COVID, things have slowed down. There is less carbon footprint. But at the same time, there are new challenges. Imagine those communities which are far away from capitals like Jakarta or like Kuala Lumpur. They have no more means to sustain themselves. Where they will find fuel? They will have to cut the forest. Or where they will find food? They may be killing the biodiversity. So there are new challenges at the same time, while we have some positive aspects as well. I want to present to you from World Health Organization this figure, and I would like our colleagues from around the world to remember this. This is the new thinking within the United Nations system. Health has to be seen differently than we saw before. Environmental health, human health, and animal health together. If we work on these aspects together, and biodiversity should be the driver for better human health and environmental health, only then we will be able to avoid the viruses like what we have with the COVID and what may come in the future. Very quickly onto UNESCO's program on environment, what colleagues can learn from here. There are three programs very quickly I would like to introduce. One is World Heritage Sites. So, for example, today our colleague Dr. Akram in India, Taj Mahal is a World Heritage Site, but at the same time, Sundarbans is also World Heritage Site. Natural heritage, where we are looking into mangroves. Then we have Man and Biosphere program. For example, in Malaysia, you have Tasik Chini, a very, very beautiful site with a very nice lake, but also very important biodiversity and livelihood and indigenous knowledge. And then we have UNESCO Global Geoparks, where environment is very important. For example, Langkawi in Malaysia. So we have many, many of those working with the local authorities and the government for sustainable development, sustainable tourism, better jobs and better lives and better environment. So within the World Heritage Site, as of this June, we have 1,121 World Heritage Sites. And some of the most beautiful sites, like you have the Georgetown, Malacca, you have Taj Mahal, you have World Heritage Sites like Borobudur, which is my background today. map, we have almost 686 biosphere reserves in 122 countries, and geoparks are becoming bigger, 147 now in 41 countries. All of them are important. I invite policy times and the universities to link with these sites so that we can have better ownership of our environment, our livelihoods, and sustainable way of living. So what can World Heritage do for biodiversity? These are some of the beautiful pictures from around the world. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia. We have Machu Picchu in Peru. And as I've introduced, the Sundarbans, for example. So with World Heritage sites, many of them are threatened. So one of them is this tropical rainforest heritage of Sumatra. And thank you, Akram, for asking me to give you examples. Here is an example where there is a conflict between road construction, agriculture encroachment, illegal logging, poaching, and there are issues for capacity building. Because of these conflicts between human and environment, we have a challenge. Now with COVID, we have a challenge. The local people have to go and find their living, maybe through by killing our biodiversity. How do we manage that? So those challenges are very big challenges for the world. Also, in the context of environment, I would like to draw your attention when the peatlands burn, then the haze goes across boundaries, and that's where the society, economy, environment need to be looked beyond the boundaries of the countries. Like, for example, if the peatlands are burning in Indonesia, what is the link with Malaysia and Singapore and others? So climate change and these issues need to be looked beyond the national boundaries and need to be looked in a policy way for everyone to work together for better life. In UNESCO, we have a very important initiative, what we call sustainability science, with United Nations, University, and UNESCO working together. How do we bring natural systems and social systems together? That's where the technology also comes in. But very importantly, how do we move our society to be a sustainable society? Under this initiative, we are working with the universities to set up sustainability sites. For example, in case of Indonesia, the tropical rainforest heritage of Sumatra. In case of the Philippines, Ifugao, which are the rice terraces, very, very important. Or Davao City in southern Philippines. In case of Malaysia, close to Kuala Lumpur, Langat River Basin. How do we work with the environment and the biodiversity together with the UKM, very important university, and many other stakeholders like Department of Irrigation and Drainage and with the government. Let me summarize now because we are in the shortage of time today. So I see there are many challenges and opportunities. COVID has brought us to the point where maybe we have been challenged to our existence and we have to think about sustainability and think about health in a different way. The example I gave you from WHO. There are many protected areas in many countries, but we are still lacking the action which can be upscaled to the whole of the country level, to across the boundaries. Like I gave you the example of haze, or between boundaries on the issues of water, for example, take India, Pakistan, for example. How do we work together and create cooperation, or Mekong River Basin? Then we also need to look into how do we improve the environmental status within conservation areas? How do we improve from a given mangrove site to the whole of landscape approach, for example, in Sundarbans? Also, there is a big issue from technical and financial resources point of view. Simply, there are not enough experts. Universities have to step up. We need new courses where people should think about policy as well as economics and also look into technical solutions. Capacity building is a very big challenge for all of us. Capacity building needs to be done at many different levels. At the local level, at the level of a site, universities must own those sites. Like, for example, I gave you the example of UCAM working with Tasik Chini, and there should be similar examples of universities working in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and in other places. So we need to have national, regional, local, all those levels covered. My message today for colleagues who are listening, we have to work together with all member states. It's a political problem also. We need to bring the attention of the donors. With the EU now, for example, is focusing on COVID, but at the same time, these challenges of climate change environment stay there. Civil society, academia, consultant, and think tanks like what you have, this policy forum. So with that, I thank you for your attention. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, like Basam is my friend on Facebook, on LinkedIn, you can find many of our activities. And really, the world is about connectivity and thinking differently than what we are doing. United Nations is not something appointed by an external force out of this world. It's about you and me. We have to work together, academia, think tanks, civil society, member states, and we have to create solutions. Lastly, let me also applaud the Malaysian government and give you an example. We are working on South-South cooperation among universities, among centers of excellence, and linking people together, linking sites together. This is a program which we are running for about $9 million for already more than 5 years, which are linking Asia and Africa. So we need to find solutions through South-South cooperation. I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for inviting me. It is wonderful to interact with you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Shahbaz, for the informative presentation. I think there are two inquiries here, two questions, which is quite related to your presentation, Prof. So the first one, is it possible to achieve all sustainable development goals, especially when the markets is dominated by the liberal economy? Isn't it that the liberal market obstacle the way of achieving these goals? Like whether Prof. Shahbaz, Prof. Ismail want to take these questions?
If you want, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Prof. Shahbaz, maybe first, then we can get feedback from
So
Prof.
for
Ismail.
the sustainable development goals, these are zero-sum goals. Nobody should be left behind. These goals should be achieved to the 100%. Like if you remember the Millennium Development Goals, we said we will give 50% water supply, 50% sanitation. Who should be those 50% who should be left behind? That was a big dilemma in terms of how do we make sure that everybody is included. Now the challenge is by 2030, can there be zero hunger in the world? Can we make sure the biodiversity is well conserved? Can we make sure everyone has a decent job? So all those are very important. And you and me would like to have the same standards for us. Unfortunately, and I highlighted in my conclusions as well, there are financial as well as technical constraints. Before COVID, we were lacking behind on these goals. And our topic for many of us, we are the people in water and engineering and all of that. It was simple SDG number 6 in terms of providing access to safe drinking water and sanitation. We were lagging behind very badly in Asia Pacific and in other regions. So now COVID is putting more troubles in terms of the financial resources within countries, and there may be fears of recession as well. So what do we do? Should we abandon these goals? No, we cannot abandon these goals. These goals are very important for humanity. Every one of us must be treated with dignity. We must have education. We must have jobs. We must get decent health. And if we are affected by any of these diseases, we should be able to access the hospital as well. So maybe the emphasis need to go more on sustainable development, greener economy, looking into how do we create those systems which can support the populations in these difficult times, but at the same time, how do we continue with the Sustainable Development Goals agenda? That's what United Nations at country team levels in every one of the countries is working on. We have socio-economic impacts analysis, and we are working also how do we bring the private sector, civil society, so that everyone plays their role so that we can create sustainable development and achieve sustainable development goals. And if we are lagging, how can we accelerate them with better science, technology, engineering, and better technical capacity? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So, Prof. Ismail?
Yeah, okay. I think regarding about whatever been said, basically, from my point of view, the world is very, very just. Okay, so it's balance. It's balance. However, in reality, the imbalance of economy, the imbalance of the power struggle, everything, it creates the turmoils. The economic turmoils, the environment turmoils, and social turmoil. So looking on that, I think is more on whatever been said by Professor Shanazid. Shahbaz, sorry, Shahbaz. I think that is the wish. There's a wishing list. Everything sustainable should be. That is more of the academic exercise. I agree. From the research point of view, but in terms of reality, as we can see, the imbalance of economy. whereby only a small portion of a small number of people that are handling a big chunk of the economy. That imbalance that it creates all these it imbalance the whole ecosystem. That is why I'm just try to bring up the issues rather than not giving the solution, because solution is not that easy. But looking on that imbalance of the economic imbalance, okay, that also it create ripple effects to the environments and also to the social. That's why happening. I think regarding about, let's say, talking about the food security, I think the world is just. I mean, the food that we produce is enough for everybody. However, because of the cartel, because of this, all the issues that brought up by the mankind, that is the most crucial. That's why I'm looking on the. I agree just now. If we have been focusing a lot on the technical aspect of environment, I think we have reached almost the plateau. The technology, everything is there. However, in terms of the on the aspect of the what you call on the soft side of the sustainable is not been rigorously uncovered and rigorously engaged. But hopefully that somebody have to look on this legal aspect, on the social aspect, as compared to the technical aspect of the environment. That's my suggestion would be on the issue of the imbalance of the economy, where majority a small numbers of people are holding a big chunk of the economy. So
thank you so much, Prof. Ismail.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm Mr. Akram.
Yeah. So I'm
giving back the floor, to introduce the other speakers.
So much. Wonderful discussion. I don't have personally much knowledge about the environment and sustainability issue. The purpose of organizing this international virtual conference is actually to learn. So I personally want to learn a lot of it. My first experience, I want to invite Mr. Ajit Singh, who is here. Before that, my experience is we don't feel responsible in action at the individual level about the environmental issues. Whether it comes to polluting on the street, whether it comes to throwing something instead of dustbin, something on the street. So a lot of our individual action is not complying with what we should do to nurture the nature and to preserve and protect the nature. I think on this, I want to invite Mr. Ajit Singh. Mr. Ajit Singh is the global lead on climate change at ActionAid. He is based in New Delhi. He supports countries across the world on climate change policy and advocacy from a feminist and human rights perspective. He is a global expert on issues of climate impacts, migration, and adaptation. Previously, he managed disaster resilience program globally and coordinated emergency response. Mr. Ajit Singh, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akram, for inviting me to the Policy Institute, to UTHM, and congratulations for organizing and getting such an august panel, and really pleasure to listen to each one of you. So thank you for having me as well. I think my job has been made easy with the fantastic presentations that I've heard so far. And thank you, Dr. Ismail, for setting the context. So what I can do is I can also share my screen and share a presentation with you. Let me just run it. Can you see full screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I'm supposed to be talking about climate change, but how we normally call it is that climate justice, and I'll go slightly deep into why we call it climate justice. I'm sure many of you are aware that we are already living at a 1.1 degree temperature rise scenario. And there's no doubt about it. And a lot of disasters, impacts that we are seeing are because of the global warming that we have seen in the last few years and decades, and how this global warming is causing climate change, which in result causing increasing number of cyclones, floods, drought. Look at India at this moment, hit by very powerful cyclones only the last few weeks. 2 cyclones we have seen, West Bengal and also in Mumbai. Thankfully, Mumbai, we haven't seen much damage, but the way it was being projected, we all were very, very scared. And that's the new reality that we are living with. And that has happened because of the emissions that have been caused and the kind of impacts we are seeing. So you must be aware about the report came from IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And that report looked at what happens if we cross 1.5 degree threshold. And this scientific body, which is the top authority on climate, how temperature has been increasing, how we are very close to 1.5 degree target, because all scientists have 2 degree and beyond. So this comparison that you can see on the screen, and in fact that is continuously getting updated.
Mr. Singh, your internet seems to be a little unstable. So, yeah, can you hear us properly? I think your internet
I can.
is unstable. Yeah,
okay, I can hear you very well.
Mm-hmm. Please go on.
Okay. So how the extreme heat is going to get 2.6 times worse, and many more people are going to be impacted. How we have seen marine resources getting impacted, and that's going to be 2 times worse. So imagine just a half degree of increased warming and how it is having 2 times the impact, whether it is species loss, whether it is about crop yield, which is more than times loss. And in case of Arctic summer ice, which is going to disappear if we are looking at 2 degree temperature rise scenario. So that's the kind of impact we are seeing, and the same applies to vertebrates and coral reefs, which is the basis of our marine life. And if that's the reality, we are going to see many more impacts. And it's not just going to be extreme weather events, which we normally talk about much more. Because they get our attention in terms of cyclones or drought or floods. But then there are many slow onset events which we don't normally talk about. And I would like to draw your attention to desertification, the pace of which has increased, how temperature is increasing, which is impacting our agriculture systems and marine ecology. We have seen land and forest degradation. We have seen loss of biodiversity, glacial retreat, sea level rise, and many more disasters. And ocean acidification is something that we don't even talk about enough, in our day-to-day discourse. And this particular infographic has come from UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, where the discussions over the last 3 decades have been much more on the mitigation side. That means reducing emissions and protecting forests. And at best, it went to how to prepare yourself before climate change impacts hit you. But now we have reached a stage where we are talking about massive impacts. And if you see at the bottom of the infographic, we are talking about economic losses and also so-called non-economic losses, which basically mean social, cultural, and impact. And I'm glad to hear from Dr. Khan from Unesco about UNESCO getting involved and playing much more role to look at from social angle and also linking with the environmental and human part of it. So many of the economic losses are very well known. And we talk about income or loss of physical assets, or we talk about loss of life, and now health. But we don't really talk enough about displacement and human mobility and loss of territory, loss of cultural heritage, loss of indigenous knowledge, or societal identity that we are going to lose forever. That's the reality we are living with, and that's the kind of impact we are going to see in future. But why we call it climate justice, and again, building on what Dr. Khan was saying and Dr. Ismail also said, we need to look at it together, as one global community. And in case of climate, it becomes even more important to look at it not only from a global community perspective, because this is one planet, one collective climate system, but also look at it on who is responsible for climate crisis, who needs to play a bigger role. And that's where this, what you see on the screen, this chart, where we look at who has caused most emissions which we have been put into the atmosphere. So if you look at the top two, it's European Union and United States that are responsible for more than 50% of emissions. Of course, China is pretty big now, and Indian emissions, and this is 2014 data, have been increasing. But other countries, it's less than 50%. Now, with industrialization moving much more towards global south, we have seen that combination changing. We see now China emitting the most, which is 28% of emissions, United States emissions going down to 15%, and then you see India increasing to 6%, and the recent data says 7%, and then rest are 2%, 1%. And this is how we look at the responsibility as well. So if countries that are responsible for most emissions, and where we need to look at both from a historical perspective and also who is emitting more now, that's how we fix the responsibility of action when it comes to climate justice. And we can't just look at it from a country perspective. We also look at it from a per capita point of view. And per capita, you can see the deep red. You also see Australia, you see North America. And here you can see even more closely that Australia has most per capita emissions, followed by the US, Canada, Russia, Germany, UK. And India, it comes to 1.5 or now closer to 2 tons per capita per annum. So when we talk about climate justice, to really look at who is causing the problem and who has to play a bigger role. And just to simplify that from a perspective, this is a slightly older data of 2011, where United States had 786 cars per 1,000 people. And if you look at India, it's 18. Of course, it has increased over the last decade. And then if you look at electricity consumption, one American home is using electricity more than 1.5 times of a French citizen, 2.2 times of a Japanese, 2.6 times of a German, and 34 times what an Indian citizen is consuming, and 61 times what a Nigerian is consuming. That's the kind of inequality that we are looking at in terms of consumption. So, and as global community, we need to look at, when we talk about ecological space, the reality is that the global north continues to occupy most space even now, even when industrialization has shifted much more towards the global south. And if you look at this picture slightly closely and look at the umbrella, who is most exposed to climate impact? So if it's raining, who has little capacity, who has little resources? So you find Asia, Africa, and Latin American countries have least resources, have occupied least ecological space, and have very little capacity to really deal with it. I think that is absolutely fundamental to understand how do we respond to climate justice. And you also see how a development model, again, Dr. Ismail was saying about it in the beginning, to a lot of details, how human beings are displacing many species, how genetic diversity has been affected, how we are going to look at decline to the tune of 80% in the next few years. So we have really destroyed the planet, and we need to continue to look at our. This came in terms of reference on who is occupying, who has most money, and that is also commensurate to who is emitting more. And you look at 10% are consuming more than, they're basically responsible for about 50% of lifestyle consumption emission. Whereas 50% are responsible for only 10% of lifestyle emissions. If you have an average of how much one needs for basic consumption. So that's the inequality. I just wanted to put that up front. And that's why it is really important to fight this fight at the global level. It's not just a national issue. Yes, we need to do a lot more at the national level. We need to fix our own economic system. We need to be a lot more prepared. Dr. Khan talked about disaster risk reduction. All those preparations are required. But as a global community, we need to look at how global elites have occupied the space, how global corporations, and if I talk about another data, 100 companies, corporations are responsible for 71% of emissions. So we need to, be aware of these numbers to really devise our strategy. And another great divide between rich and poor, how 50% more men, men own 50% more wealth than women.
Your
Right.
internet.
And how 1% of 6.6 billion people own. So the divide between 1% and 99% remains. And that's also true for India. Just 63 people have more wealth than the union budget in India. So this global inequality, whether you talk about income, whether you talk about emissions, exists not only globally, but also in India. So that's where, when we talk about impacts, you see poor people facing all these climate impacts, but with very, very little capacity. Yes, there is a global response. Dr. Khan briefly referred to Paris Agreement. There is an agreement. I'm not going to get into details, just to keep it simple. It does talk about keeping the temperature rise below 1.5 and 2 degrees. It does talk about rich countries provide money to the tune of $100 billion per year as a floor. It does talk about developed countries taking a lead in reducing emissions much more at the domestically, and provide support to poor countries. But the reality is that this money is not coming in the way it should. We have already reached 2020, and their commitment of providing $100 billion should start now. We've only seen $15-20 billion coming in, and now COVID has hit them also very hard. So we need to look at things from a current context. And here, poor developing countries continue to face disasters one after the other. And they are losing resources to now COVID response. Economies are really doing very bad, which means less money with the government. So it really takes us to a stage where how do we respond? The plans that have been put on the table, and this is almost a year old update, and not much has happened after that. Again, I'm not going to get into details. We look at how different countries are positioned, whether their plans are compatible with 2-degree target.
Thank you. Your internet.
India is slightly degree, but not in tune.
Right. Thank you. Mr.
Yeah.
Singh, your internet is sometimes a little unstable and creating a little problems. So we are not able to hear you properly. So I would not suggest to stop your video. Please go on, continue.
Okay. So should I switch off my video?
No. Please continue, because video is important. So that.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just finish, and I'm happy to respond. So the whole world is coming together. We are responding. You can see how protests are increasing around the world. Young people are playing a very important role, and these protests are them. Look at the left top corner. These protests are right at the conference center, where we work with several movements and allies to challenge what was going on in these conferences. We were not achieving enough ambition while the world is burning, and so there has been a lot of push on much more action, and particularly from rich countries. And there are young people, as I said, from all around the world. From India, you see young leaders from Uganda, from Sweden, from other countries, from other European countries. So this is my last slide, and the message that I want to drive, that it's not just about climate change, it's about system change. It's about who is occupying, who is making the most of the current economic model, who is occupying the resources, who is most responsible for the crisis, and who has to do more. Whereas poor people who are suffering, they need justice, they need compassion, and they need solutions. So that's from my side.
Thank you. I think wonderful. There are 3 or 4 aspects of analyzing it. I was a little tense that how can I have Professor, and how quickly can I have Professor VN3? Finally, he's here. If you can switch on your video, sir. One is, what are the root causes of the environmental problems or challenges? The second aspect is, what are the solutions? Now, when we talk about solutions, solution at the government level, solution at the individual level. and solution at the business level. So here, most of our participants, I'm really happy. I would request, instead of writing good morning or good afternoon, if you can straight away put your question or suggestions, that will be great. And I'm really happy that many of our partners, they all are learned. Either they are professors in different colleges or school principals or teachers. So I have seen, when we were promoting this event, there was, across the sector, there is a massive interest to know, understand the climate change and biodiversity issues. That was the thing that I found during the entire exercise. Now, to talk on that, I think most of our panelists would be very much, they are giving amazing suggestions. We will come up with those suggestions to our panel later. But I just want to say that from the listeners' perspective, we would be extremely happy to have some case studies, like which country has taken amazing initiative, which organization has taken a very nice initiative, creative, innovative initiative, and it is helping the industry or manage the climate change. So, Ajit Singh, you can switch on your video now, sir. Professor V.N. Atri, I met the always smiling and beautiful person long back during my tenure at FICCI. He is the chair in Indian Ocean Studies. And when we were designing this program, we thought we will try to invite diverse, experts from diverse fields. So ocean study we should be able to cover, biodiversity we should be able to cover, and most importantly, my special area is industry. Because unless industry plays a critical role, no solution is possible. Because industry is the one of the biggest polluters. Similarly, industry will also have to bring the best possible solution to the climate change issues. So Professor V.N. Atri is the chair of Indian Ocean Studies, CIOS, at IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, and he has been tasked with playing a leading and catalytic role in fostering research activities and studies in the field of ocean. Now, he has been organizing, I think, hundreds of workshops, training programs on how can, at the regional and international significance of issues for private and public sectors. His, I think, core area remains sustainability and inclusive blue economy, and then world sustainable development, world trade, and many such issues. Professor Atri, if I can invite you to kindly share your keynote address. If you can, yeah. You got to unmute, sir. I accidentally mute you. Professor Atri, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. And let me first congratulate the organizer for organizing this event on the eve of World Environmental Day. In fact, till I get your message on the WhatsApp yesterday, I was thinking about speaking on nature and environment, but basically then the topic, which is the ocean and sustainability, is all well. So my comments basically will be covering what is happening to the ocean economy at global level, and what in fact IORA, basically an organization of 22 member states of the Indian Ocean, is the APEC body, plus there are 10 dialogue partners have been doing in reference to the ocean economy, which basically we call the sustainable blue economy. Now, as you rightly mentioned, I have been attending the blue economy conferences since 2015 and participated in UN events as well as the Nairobi conference in November 2018. And basically in Indian Ocean region, I conceptualized the idea of writing the handbook of the Indian Ocean region, which is the unique book on the ocean economy, that is the blue economy. The point here is that why do we shifting to the ocean economy? There is a long history. I will be just touching the points. So It is not in 2010. There is a book written by Guntar Pali, The Blue Economy, 100 million jobs with 100 innovations. So, in fact, this is an issue nature versus man. In nature, basically, I'm talking about the universal global ecosystem. In a universal global system, there is a role for the scientist, the biologist, the social scientist, NGOs, industries, and all that. And I have been saying from the last 5 years to the various governments in IORA, as well as the business organizations, to think about ocean economy in depth and to implement it, because basically the thinking about the environmental quality started long back, 1966, when Kenneth Balding, a very famous economist, talk about the future, the economics of the spacecraft, in which that he talks about matter, energy, information, talks about the closed economy, talks about the open economy. And in that context, we have to understand, what do you mean by system? System means interconnectedness, interrelatedness. And then basically in 2013, let me give the background of IORA, there was a meeting of COM in Australia, Perth, where all the 22 member states of IORA, India is one of them, Indonesia is there, Sri Lanka is there, Bangladesh is there, South Africa is there, UAE is there. So the list is long, you must be knowing. So they committed themselves that the important point which I'm making, that all the IORA countries in the rim will be utilizing the oceanic resources sustainably. So that is back in 2013. And prior to that, when IORA was set up in 1997, we focused on the sustainable development. Now, sustainability basically is a thing which has been defined according to each person's, you say, motives, objectives, and all that. But not going into the definition of sustainability, basically the issue here is that how to ensure resilience and how to use the resources, that is the oceanic resources, for the future generation. And I was just going through one of the interview which was given by a young man in Fiji, and that was highlighted by the World Bank, that he asked a few questions to that gentleman, and he said, what do you mean by ocean economy? So one thing which he highlighted, and I like it very much, he says that the major issue in ocean economy right now, which practically explains the sustainability, is the challenges of the ocean economy. There are three main challenges which the ocean economy is facing. One is the plastic pollution. Nearly 8 million tons of plastic flows annually to the ocean. And then it is affecting the living and non-living organism in the ocean. When you talk about fisheries, aquaculture, other things, all those things are polluted, you see. And then it is linked with the health sector, the health of the people and all that. So basically, what is required, that plastic pollution, then the acidification of the ocean, and then earlier speakers have been talking about the climate action, you see. So all basically we have to talk about of sustaining the ecosystems, you see. And ecosystem, you know very well, that is the interaction among the living organism, non-living organism with the environment. It is the physical environment, it is the natural environment. So all those things basically we should talk about. And now basically humankind have been imaginative and focusing on that future is always bright. And in various meetings and all that, we have been talking about basically environment. So now basically, what do you mean by environment? Environment, basically, we include always the nature component as well as the component of culture, and it may be viewed as an emerging property of the man-natural relation, a field of reciprocal transformation of the human being by nature and of the nature by the human. So now, as discussed by Guntar Pali also, who is one of the leading authority in blue economy or the ocean economy in Mauritius, we prefer ocean economy, and some of the other countries, US, etc., they prefer ocean economy because it basically conveys the better sense of understanding. And ocean economy becomes blue economy when we add the element of environment as well as sustainability into it. And then in the Nairobi conference, where I was there in two of the panels, the element of rivers and climate change has been added. And then the basic thing which is important, that is of accelerated technological change. I was invited by the United Nations in Mexico in 2018 to participate on the UN expert meeting on accelerated technological change. And it was a group of 40 scholars all over the world, had a very interesting discussions. But the basic questions which I am posing, you see, today, that who determines the course of action, the who is determining that what will be the inventions or innovations, you see. That is basically, we need to add the element of what we call ethical. There should be ethics behind it, you see. So now, just talking about, you emphasize the case studies, the gentleman basically said that if we are not caring about the health of the oceans, maybe in next 100 years, ocean may dry. And everybody of us knows that ocean basically is the source of life for us. Ocean is the regulator of climate. Ocean basically, you say, is the provider of oxygens. Ocean basically is the provider of all trade activities. Yes, see, 90% of the trade activities is done by ocean. Then basically, another thing is which have been emphasized by the United Nations Sustainable Development conferences in 2012. Then basically you all know about the various concepts talking about the ocean economy, marine economy, new green economy, blue growth, sustainable economy, which basically we talk about Nairobi conference. So basically now then in January 2020, the experts in blue economy have been talking about true blue economy. So what does it mean? It means basically that the central issue of all the crises seems to be a balancing factor, you see. It is a balance between the environmental resources. And if I go back to the history of environmentalism in 1970s, and as a student of economics, I know that there is always a paradigm shift, you see. I define blue economy as a new alternative economic paradigm. And generally in economics, paradigm shift takes place in between 20 to 25 years. But if you trace the history of environmentalism, sustainable development, ocean economy, everything, it is, I cited the case of Kenneth Boulding, 1996, and today we are in 2020. So it is more than, you see, 60 years, you see, that basically we are struggling of it. But now the things which are very important and on which I just have my own thinking, my own perception. For example, if you go into the various reports of United Nations Environmental Program, I was searching all those reports since 2000, and especially if you just go through the report of environmental UN Environment Program in 2018, 17, 19, they have been highlighting the issue of health crisis. That basically, since there is pollution, because of the acidification of the ocean, as well as because of the plastic pollution, there is a issue of microplastic, which is very serious, and that may cause health hazards, you see. And the present COVID-19 basically came, and it has disrupted the economy very badly. And so to so that if I go to the trade estimates, that the trade of the global trade will be reduced somewhat between 13 to 20%, but that depends on the duration of this COVID. And since it is going on, and there will be loss of global GDP, the global GDP at present, I give the latest figure in 2019, was around 88 trillion US dollar. And you know what is the total amount of the ecosystem services globally? That is 125 trillion US dollar. So now, are we using the ocean at a speed that everything goes bad? So in that context, you see, we have to focus on the ocean economy, and we have to talk about sustainability. Sustainability is the key for the future generation, for the present and the future generation. And that sustainability is not required only in the ocean economy, but it is also relevant for the land economies, because 80% of the plastic pollution is coming from land. 20% of the plastic pollution is occurring in the ocean. So sustainability basically is linked with all. And in that context, basically, if I talk about the Sustainable Development Goal, which has been accepted by the world community in 2015 at UN level. So what is the way out, you see? Now, whether it is the policymaker, whether it is the businessman, and Akram knows very well that FICCI initiated this process in 2017, and they did a very good work. And now, basically, IORA also identified 8 sectors of the blue economy, and people are talking about those sectors. The sectors are fisheries and aquaculture, then tourism, ocean renewable energy, port and shipping, and then you see deep sea mining. So, and then you see the knowledge hub as a blue economy, all these things. So what are the sectors I'm talking about now? The post pandemic era. Do we think that ocean economy, if we focus on the ocean economy through sustainability principle, is capable of boosting the recovery? That is the issue. Whether you talk about Europe, whether you talk about America, whether you talk about Africa or Asia, or whether you take it ocean as a whole, I basically propound a hypothesis that basically ocean is one. Then this one ocean has been disaggregated into regional seas and oceans. And in those regional seas and oceans...
Yeah, thank you. If I can request you to kind of conclude in 1 minute, then we will go for a Q&A, question and
answer. Okay. So then what I was telling you, that basically the major part that the ocean economy can be made sustainable if we are linking this ocean economy with sustainable goal number 12, which basically is my suggestion. And what is the UN Sustainable Goal 12? Responsible consumption and production pattern. Then the goal 15, life on land. Goal 14, life below water. And SDG goal 13, that is the climate action. So these 4 SDG goal will pave the way for more sustainability And in that context, the ocean climate biodiversity link must be understood, enhancing innovative partnership to transform ocean industries, then sustaining coral reefs and mangroves. Already 25 to 50% of the world coral reefs have been destroyed, and another 60% are underway. Make a commitment, and then find ways to contribute to a healthier ocean, clean environment, and happier planet beyond 2020. And how to do it? That is, I repeat, that is the idea is, the mantra is that nature, we should learn to respect nature. We should try to seek a balance between nature and man. Man is not above nature. Nature, if man says that he can do anything, is not above man. But the last question I put everywhere: do we think that we are as intelligent as nature? So that is basically restoring to the principle of sustainability will lead us to the better world in the post-pandemic era. And being optimistic, I do find a hope that ocean economy, and interpreted in terms of business, the ocean industries is the way, is the hope to bring the recovery in the global economy as well as in the national economies. And I'm not coming to India or other specific countries. I will be happy to answer the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let us have a lot of questions are there. I'm really happy. I'll take a couple of names. Mr. Dalip Kumar Chatwal, environmentalist, Yamuna Bihar, Haryana. He's asking. So to all, these questions are to all our panelists who have spoken. Is green growth possible without health compromise? That's one question. Dalip Kumar Chatwal is asking this. From one school principal, Sandhya Singh, she's asking, sir, what's the reason for cyclone in Mumbai? Are they related to El Nino effect? So that's one question. Then the other question is, during COVID-19, global warming should have been reduced as all human activities came to a hold. So I think she's making a statement there. Our respected Lieutenant General Alit Malik is asking that greetings on World Environment Day, and World Environment Day to you too, sir. Let's join hands to make the world a better place to live in, and we owe it ourselves and the coming generations. That's a statement and a very modern motivational point he has put forward. Now the other question is, health environment lead to healthy economy? Means, will healthy environment lead to healthy economy? That's one. So another comment coming from I am Professor Dhal from Odisha. My observation is sustainability practices is not picking up as expected. It is not policy but actions important. Government should play in the front foot, but that is missing at this point of time. COVID situation may be considered as advantages for polluters to damage the environment more. Mahindra Kaur Dariwal, I'll take a couple of 2-3 more questions here. In the current scenario, zero hunger can be easily reached if we can control the better food produce storage. Why is the focus not shifted to better storage from better yield of crops? We were talking about hunger, zero hunger. So the another question coming from Jaya Bharti Medineni asking, our planet is ailing because of the over usage of the resource such as fisheries, turning croplands to concrete jungles, and then grass lands to barren land. What precautions have we to take at local level to balance our resources? The final question I want to take is Dr. Laltha Prasad asking, how to protect environment? What are the concrete solutions for environmental protection? These are a couple of questions I thought I'll just take. Dr. Vesam, you are most welcome to add anything to this. Now, if I can go to our panelists.
If you allow me, sorry, I'll have to leave the next 3-4 minutes for another conference. Sorry.
Absolutely, please go on.
I would like to share just a couple of thoughts. There are several questions, and I won't be able to respond to each one of them, and there are other panelists who can take that up. But I would like to just share a few thoughts which do kind of respond to a couple of questions. The question in front of us is that how do we look at development? Are we looking at development as a silo? And again, many panelists did point that out. Or are we looking at it as very much integrated and part of the environment? So far, we have seen development model that we adopted, and if I talk of India in particular, or most developing countries, we've just been blindly copying the American economic model. And not that we started copying; it has been pushed down the throat. Sometimes through active promotion, and sometimes through some of the programs like structural adjustment program, and giving us loans, and in many other ways. So it's not our doing all the time, and we need to recognize that. And what that did, it prevented us integrated with our environmental systems. And many developing countries at this moment, we find that how environment has been very much part of our society, our culture, our economic model, but we have abandoned everything and we have gone on to adopt an economic model which only looks at GDP. I think that's at the core of the problem that we have seen. Whether you talk about health issue, whether you talk about environmental challenges, it's all because of the economic model that we have adopted. Now, everything is so very market oriented. So the big question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we going to look at environment as an afterthought, or just as a touchstone, or even, we have seen countries looking at environment as a roadblock? I think we have to go beyond that thinking and see environment as a very much integral part of the development. And in fact, where we have come to in terms of destroying our ecology and biodiversity, now environment has to be at the center of all our thinking and our strategies and action and policies when it comes to development. So we have deprioritized it, we have sidelined it for a very long time. We cannot do that anymore. Having said that, you were talking of examples. There are examples. If you look at Europe, Europe is doing better than US, and US is going backwards when it comes to environmental protection. And now with COVID-19, they are using that as an excuse to relax environmental norms. We are hearing similar stories in India, and I don't think we should allow that to happen. And that's where our voices and voices of all citizens and direct action is really, really important. So I think it's, and as I said, Europe has, is emerging as a model. Of course, has to do much more. It has committed to reduce its emissions by 40%, compared to 1990 levels by 2030. Similarly, Denmark has gone ahead to say it's going to cut its emissions by 70% by 2030. And these are all legally enshrined targets that they have taken. So there are many such examples. Even India has been appreciated for the kind of solar target it has taken. Of course, there are many roadblocks, but overall the intention has been appreciated, and there are some positive steps that have been taken in that regard. So I think it's really about the model that we take, policies that we put, for action.
Mr. Akram, you need to unmute your mic.
Sorry, I'm sorry. So I think there's issue with Mr. Harjeet on the voice, like in the video front, the internet connection issue. I want to straightly come to our other panelists. All the questions I have met Dr. Khan, Professor Atri, and Professor Ismail. If you can touch upon the points that our viewers have raised, our participants have raised, one by one, in bullet points, if you can answer, so that we can save time and within cover more and more points. Dr. Khan, over to you.
Thank you very much. Very, very enlightening presentations, and Professor Atari gave a very good overview of the oceans, which is usually neglected by all of us, and how do we connect. So many of these questions need to go back. Maybe bullet point number one, we need to have better environmental laws, and there must be very good transparent implementation. So that's my bullet point number one. Number two, we must go back to the basics, which is polluter must pay. Because there is a question about, can there be green economy? The problem is because of corruption, polluters don't pay. That's why there is no green economy. Then I also saw a very interesting question. While we have this COVID problem, we need to wear masks, we need to wear gloves. Are we adding to the new environmental problems by not disposing them responsibly? I am really very delighted to see that our viewers have that level of detail in their mind. So we must start from our own behavior. Maybe also, how do we implement sustainable development in a country? Who is going to do it? It's the political system. We need to work with the political parties, with the politicians. I work with many of them. The problem is we think politicians already know, but honestly, they don't. This was my experience in Australia when I was a professor there, that you need to step out of your domain, go and work with the politicians, explain your most recent research, and how can you bring them together so they can raise these issues in the parliament with an informed way of dialogue. That's very, very important. And lastly, let me also contribute to this question which is asked, is climate change responsible for the cyclones? What is the impact of climate change on those challenges? So very briefly, of course, climate change is not something which will stop in 3 months. This is a long-term trend. And I'm sure the professors will agree with me, what is put in the train already is already damaging us, and it will take many more decades before we will come back to, if there is any normal, forever. That's very important. So while there is a slowdown for 3 months, we have done so many bad things for so many years. Environment is not going to recover within this very short period of time. Climate is impacting on our hydrological cycle, our ocean cycles, with whatever we do in our life. And we need to have longer term thinking. It's not that because of these 3-4 months of COVID, while we are dealing with very difficult issues of our elders and our friends dying, and the climate will fix it. Not really at all. In my view, in many places, climate may be suffering in other ways. When there are nothing for people to do and there is no jobs available, they may start cutting the trees. They may start killing the orangutans or the tigers or others. So we need to take a systems view, longer term view, need to work with the political system, need to positively influence the political system, and we need to get our social and other divides which are holding us away from achieving bigger, better goals together. Everyone must play their role. Only then we will move towards a sustainable planet with better health facility and with better biodiversity and better jobs and dignity for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Atri.
Yeah, thank you. I think the comments made by my predecessor, I agree with them. But I will be just focusing on few things. One is, as rightly said, that we have already damaged the environment. And if you try to collect the data, how much expenditure is devoted in GDP to the environment, in globally, that is not significant. The other thing is basically future. We focus on future. I have been talking about, let me give a reference to a conference which I attended in Brazil, organized by the World Bank. And in that conference, the issue was Think Blue, Blue Economy Initiative for Future. And the idea of that conference, which was there in 2018 on the Ocean Day from 5th June to 8th of June, I was invited to share my views. So idea was that we should change our university curriculum, the research, etc. And to tell them, I pose a question, what will be the nature of employment or the professions in next, 15 years, a child who takes birth in, say, 2020, which type of jobs which whether he will be engineer, teacher, and how many of the young people, I was referring to the life below water, will be interested to work in the ocean, underneath the ocean for months of time, So that is a basic issue. Think blue mind. It should be there in our mind that we should be very cautious. In that contrast, to me, basically, it is the SDG goal 12, responsible consumption production pattern. That explains everything. And we are talking about the green economy. I know that the estimation of the green economy, we should not focus on GDP only. We should focus on the happiness, you see, the happiness index, you see. And in that context, basically, as I mentioned, to me, if anybody focus that, what is your suggestion? I tell that, well, ocean is a resource, and the ocean capital is known as blue capital or natural capital. Although we don't have the measurement of the natural capital, we cannot measure the contribution of the ocean economy to the GDP. And the other comment which I dare to make, that since blue economy is an interdisciplinary subject, everybody is expert in blue economy, but things are different, you see. If you go to the deep sea mining, down 10,000 meter, and extracting the, you see, polymetallic modules and all that, do we know that how much damage they will be doing to the ocean surface? Is it viable? I give one example, that there is a company in Canada, they just went to the New Papua Guinea to extract gold from the ocean. Everything was favorable, but till to date, the gold has not been extracted from the ocean. Then basically another thing which many people do not know, that apart from the exclusive economic zone, that is, which is area from 0 kilometer to 200 kilometer from the boundary of your country, that is national provision, that is under your control. But there also you have to follow the international laws. You have to follow the UNCLOS. But 60% of the ocean is the high ocean, which is the property for all the humanity, global humanity. If there is some resource basically you find in the high ocean, how this resource will be distributed among the 200 countries of the world? Till to date, there is no formula. I know that some institutions in basically this IMO, International, you see, organization for you see marine resources. This basically they have been talking about the finding out the model. So what is required, that you need to make not only the environmental laws are there. Recently, one study has been published by Duke Nicholas Institute on plastic pollution, which is a study running into 400 pages. And that study has assessed the regulations adopted by all the countries almost in the world in the last 200 years, in the last 20 years. And the results is not positive, you see. So basically, we need to focus on implementation. We need to change our thinking. We need to apply the principles of sustainability, not to the ocean economy, but also to our daily life. So these are some of the issues which basically should be adapted.
Excellent. Professor Atri, excellent views. Thank you so much. I would request you, Dr. Khan, Professor Atri, and Professor Ismail, would you like to add anything? We are a little crossing time. We will go. We have an excellent panel of speakers for the next session. I would request you to be kindly here with us for a couple of more minutes. We have the speakers for the second session also with us. I would also love the way Dr. Khan is doing. He is replying some queries in the chat box. Professor Atri, if you can do, I think that would be really wonderful. While we can address the queries of our participants who are here, Dr. Nagalakshmi Raman is HOD, International Department of International Studies as MET. She's sharing some wonderful view, and Dr. Khan is replying there in the chat box. I would request Professor Atri, if you can also address some of the queries there in the chat box. I don't know how much now tech savvy you are. During our days at FICCI was different, but I'd be very happy, having some answer here in the chat box. That will save our time. At the same time, it will help us, continue the session being on time. Mr. Amiya Kumar Sahu, I want to welcome our panelists for the next session. My co-moderator, Dr. Vesam, please be with me. Whenever you want to intervene, kindly share your views. For the second...
Please, your leave, I have some other duties. And if I can answer, I will still answer some questions. And you are most welcome to link with me. You are doing a wonderful job from UNESCO. We support you, and we will link with each and every one of you. So thank you for a wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much.
And yeah, so me too. Basically, I'm here in the secretariat, you see, focusing on some very urgent thing, and I'll be here around. I will maybe joining, but those priorities are important, and I will be going to the chat box, and it has been a wonderful experience. And let us work together, because you see, this is a week for environment, and on 8th of June we are celebrating the Ocean Day. And I'm also bringing a special issue on blue economy, which will be uploaded on 8th of June. I think that will be interesting to all of you. So thank you very much. So I will be just here, but will be joining if time permits me. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you.
So much for having me. Let me just quickly introduce our panelists for the second session. This session is specially from the business perspective. I wanted to have views from how industry is reacting to this. And believe me, participants and respected viewers, the fact is every challenge brings equal opportunity. It is only that how do we see where are the opportunities within this challenge. So when we say that huge amount of plastics are in the ocean, then it also means there are huge entrepreneurial opportunities to recycle or collect those plastics and recycle them. Similarly, this is same in all other perspectives. Let me just quickly introduce our second round of panelists. Nature-based solutions and biodiversity conversation. Our views would be shared by Dr. Hishmi Jamil Hussain. Welcome, Head Biodiversity, Corporate Sustainability, Tata Steel. Then we have Dr. Nirmal Jivan. I think Nirmal sir has also joined. He must be in the... Nirmal sir, if you have joined, let me just... You are still not there. So let me just welcome him the moment he joins. Then we have wonderful speaker, Mr. Prafulla Pathak, President, Solar Energy of India, SECI. Then to talk on solid waste management versus COVID and environment, Dr. Amiha Kumar Sahu, President, National Solid Waste Association of India. And also to talk on the biomedical perspective, we have Dr. Ashok K. Agarwal, who is the President of Indian Society of Hospital Waste Management. And the final speaker of the day would be on the biodiversity local solutions with global impact, Mr. Tanveer Mirza from Nagpur, India. He is a social activist, environmental practitioner, and founder of Yashodhara, having some wonderful local solutions or local examples with global impact. Over to Dr. Hishmi. Dr. Hishmi, if you are here, if I can invite you to share your views on nature-based solutions. You have already shared your screen. Dr. Hishmi, can you share your video?
Yes. Now you are able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. So good afternoon to all. Thank you to the Policy Time for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk on the nature-based solution in the biodiversity conservation. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the participants for their contribution in this session. Wish you all very happy Environment Day. And this is the right time when we are talking about the biodiversity and we are talking about the nature. So the flow of my presentation is that I will talk about some of the emerging trends, and it is the time for nature and what are the solutions are in nature and how we can talk about business and biodiversity. So how much time we are having, Akram, for me?
10 minutes if you can have.
Your voice is not coming. You are on mute.
Yeah. 10 minutes. I mean.
Just a moment.
Yeah. Dr. Hishmi, can you hear me?
So some of the...
Right. I think you have to increase your volume.
Yes, Akram. Sorry, I missed your... how much time we are having?
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you. It is more than sufficient time what I need to explain.
Right.
Yeah. So we all know that the nature is declining, and the rate of this decline is, you can understand that more than 1 million species are going to be extinct. There is a very strong transformative changes happening, and this is the reason that we are talking about the biodiversity on the World Environment Day. IPBES, the FAO Global Forest Resource Assessment, the WWF Living Planet report, all these reports are indicating that how fast this biodiversity is going to be vanished. So every year we are around 88 square kilometer area, 88,000 square kilometer area we are losing. There is a more than 60% of wildlife has been vanishing from 70 to 2014. The bee population, which is very important for our economy, 37% of bee population has inclined, so our food securities are going to be impacted. The pollinators on which our global 35% crops are dependent, these are going to be impacted. 90% of the world flowering is going to be impacted. I was the part of the IPBES assessment of this report, so I know these trends are very closely, and I know the impact of these trends on business and lives are very, 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 very dangerous. About 75% of the terrestrial environment services are going to be altered by the human activities. 47% of the reduction in a global indication. 28% of the communities, the tribal people, which what we say in India, in other words we say Aboriginal people, these are dependent indigenous community on the forest. We are 60 billion ton of the renewable resources we are taking from the forest every year since 1980. So now you can understand that how much dependent we are on these resources which are coming from the Mother Earth. 85% of our wetlands in last 300 years has been vanished, and the wetlands are the kidney of the earth. As some of the speaker talking about the Amazon fire, so the Amazon forest considered to be the lung of the earth. Similarly, these are the kidney of the earth. If the kidney and the lungs are going to be impacted, so you can understand the health of the planet is not good. So now the day together we can act for nature. This is the important message for the World Environment Day. In 1972, we are celebrating. Every year we are having a different challenge for the people, for the planet. And the World Environment Day is a people's celebration, people's movement, people's festival. The food we eat, the air we breathe, water we drink, the climate that makes our planet, it is our nature. So now there is the expectation of the nature that how we can conserve it. It is a time to wake up. It is to take a notice, to raise our voice, build back a better planet for the people. So it is a time for the nature, and we as a whole human can help in conservation of nature. And businesses are very important for conserving it. The link between the climate and the biodiversity. This is something that people appreciate, and people realize the value of the climate linkages. In Arabian Ocean, just before yesterday, we had one cyclone, which is very uncommon phenomenon. It not happened in the Arabian Ocean. In the Indian Ocean, this is a common phenomena, but in last 1 year, the frequency of these cyclones are very, very strong and very, very erratic. This is impacting the economy, this is impacting the people, this is impacting everyone. So the two most important cycles which are handled by the biodiversity, this is the carbon cycle and the water cycle. And both these two cycles can be controlled, can be managed if we are conscious to conserve the biodiversity. We are very much conscious to help in evaluating it. You perhaps know the coastal zones which are having mangrove tree, and West Bengal, due to Sundarban mangrove, is able to have this privilege that in a recent cyclone, it was not impacted. When tsunami came in 2004-5, the coast which are having the mangrove forest, they are not able to get so much strong impact of it. So now it is important when we are making our business decisions, when we are talking about our zones to be conserved. So that is very important that we should look the marine biodiversity, especially the mangroves, how we can conserve the mangroves so that can have impetus impact on the people's life as well as for the businesses. Now I'm talking about some of very simple things how we can protect biodiversity. The protection of biodiversity is not just the businesses can do, but the employee of the businesses and with the awareness and as a personal level, as a local level, we can do. Join the nature club. The awareness is very important. Without the awareness, with this conference, again, we are having a very simple awareness session, but it is having a very high impact, which definitely will reflect. Last year, we are having a theme of World Biodiversity Day, the beat the air pollution. And you have seen a significant impact. The policies, the plans by the different governments has been happening. The government of India take initiative. The government of Delhi has taken initiative and they've implemented a air quality improvement action plan. Similarly, the issue related with the plastic. So in 2018, we had a theme of the World Environment Day, beat the plastic. That momentum gets so high that people now ban the plastic. The government has banned the plastic. A lot of awareness among the people. So plastic is now going to be vanished from many of the parts. Although plastic is one of a very unique material which the mankind has got, only the important thing is that how to use the plastic wisely and nicely. So you can help the bees and butterfly by putting the nectar plant in your area. If you are in a farming business, if you are in a manufacturing business, if you are in a business which is related with the with the wooden industry, definitely these are the opportunities where you can support the local community through your CSR program to plant the fruit trees. Protect the natural habitat is very important aspect, that wherever you are going and you find some of the water bodies are there for them, reduce, recycle, and reuse. It is one of the mantra of reducing your pollution. This is at all level. It is for the industry level as well as your personal level. You can visit to the botanical garden in the parks that can realize that you are close to the nature and it can help. I think it will not be justice if I will not talk about the coronavirus and this linkages with the biodiversity. Now you can see that the 80 trillion economy, US dollar economy is now going to impact because of the coronavirus. This coronavirus, some of the researchers says some still get to have some more confidence on it because of cutting the forest, because of impacting the biodiversity. This zoonotics is called the procedure that the diseases of animals has jumped to the human being. So this is something you can see the adverse impact of biodiversity, that everyone on this earth is now going to be impacted by it. You can put some of bird feeders, bird bathing points at your home, so that can help you to conserve the biodiversity in your place. So now I am ending my talk with that. We are having few minutes, so I will take few questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kishmi. Wonderful. And I'm really equally amazed to see the kind of response and discussion interactions in the chat box. So one, Huzaifa Jalal writing that we have to lead the luxurious lives and which is impacting the bad impact on environment. I want to come next. So I'll keep sharing all the feedback and suggestions and views that you are sharing here. Our next speaker, I wanted someone from the industry, Mr. Prafulla Pathak, President of the Solar Energy of India, SECI in short we call. So Mr. Pathak, if you can unmute yourself and share your views on especially the solar perspective, that can renewable or solar be the future?
Initially, I would like to thank you, Akram, for inviting me and Policy Times in this wonderful gathering. I'm really very happy to see the gathering which is here on panel and as well as those who are participating. I also would like to give the Environment Day wishes to each one of us who are present here. As you all people are aware that we have to take care of our environment, and talking about the solar energy, in last decade we are talking about solar energy, but before that, as the technology which was available with us for energy resource was fossil fuel, and because of this availability of technology we were more and more going towards use of fossil fuel. But later on, when the researchers and thinkers realize that we are using it to the maximum extent, and this is what happening everywhere. Initially we start using the things at a very small level, then the moment we realize that this is beneficial to us or it is economical, we start using it at a more larger scale, then we extend it to the maximum scale, and then we realize that now this technology is giving or providing the ill effects to us. So when we were using fossil fuels, and we realized that because of the fossil fuels, we need to change the energy sector, or we need to go to something which is close to environment, then the research or then the activities for solar energy started. And initially, you all were aware that solar thermal, wherein we were using the solar energy for the preparation of hot water and all. Those were the initial days. I'm referring about 2000 and 2010. But after 2010, when the government of India, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Renewable Energy came with Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission, the uh, thrust towards the solar energy has gone. But here I would like to mention one important thing. The Solar Energy Society of India, wherein I am president right now, was found in 1978. So we must salute those people who had thought of the solar energy at that time. But the journey from 78 to 2010 was a bit slow. There was no there was the no concentration towards this. But in last decade, we have taken this up front, and I'm very pleased and very happy that solar energy is contributing for the betterment of environment each and every day. And every day we are making some better contributions. For to take an example, initially the solar PV plants which were there were hardly, when someone was talking about having a power plant of 1 megawatt capacity, the people were never thought of that this capacity of power plant will be there, which is based on solar PV. But now the gigawatt capacity power production is possible, and when we are using solar energy for the production of energy power, then definitely we are contributing towards environment, because we are not using any other source. The infrastructure, solar infrastructure is enough. There is no requirement of any other fuel. There is no requirement. Solar energy itself is a fuel, and the most important thing is it is abundant available in the world. It is free available, and at the same time there is no logistic required. So all these, and that's why it is recommended as a clean energy source. So the solar energy and other renewable energy sources, they are contributing to the environment. Recently you might have heard about International Solar Alliance. When we have developed a lot of things, and we are doing a lot of things at all India level, at the Indian level. The target which was set in 2010 for having a 20 gigawatt of solar projects in 2022, we are almost there. In 2020 we are almost there. And on the other hand, India and France have joined together and also asked 120 plus countries to join, and we have formed International Solar Alliance. the basic aspect of this International Solar Alliance is to provide all the countries which are joining, to provide them with the technology, to provide them the finance, to provide them with the human resource, and also join them to have a system or energy system which is based on solar energy. So naturally, when they are doing all these things, they are also going to contribute to the environment. Means we are using less and less fossil fuels. Our dependence on fossil fuel will go down as we start using, or we are going to solar energy. Similarly, in last week, we have had a information that the concept of one sun, one world, and one grid, which was promoted by our Prime Minister of India. Now the procedure for all for this mission or for this target has started, and because of this concept or because of this mission which we are taking, almost all countries which are, as it was when there is no sunset on any part of world, there is a sun available. So that is the concept, to have a grid of solar energy wherein the sun, wherever it is available within 24 hours a day, that sun can be, the source can be utilized for production of energy, and that energy can be taken into the one grid which is based on that, and that can be shared amongst the countries. So as we say in India, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So this is what we are expecting, that in future, with the help of solar energy, we can have all these countries coming together, producing energy with the help of sun as a source and sharing that energy. So as these things go more and more, definitely that will help for the betterment of environment. Whatever the damages those were there earlier because of use of fossil fuel for production of energy, that that damages can be avoided. Similarly, to conclude,
Right. Yeah.
as,
Please go on.
as we are moving ahead, so we are now moving to electric vehicles, and here again the gases or emissions which we found in conventional automobile, that can be reduced. So in that way also, this our way towards better environment we are going, and I'm sure this will make our world better. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let me now invite one of our important speaker who has, I was really worried that whether he will be able to join or not because he has poor connection there. Dr. Nirmal Jivan Shah, Chief Executive, Nature Seychelles. He's an award-winning environmental practitioner and scientist based in Seychelles. Along with that, he also has a lot of other, important designations on his cap. So, Dr. Shah, if you can kindly share your views from the perspective of what is happening in Seychelles and Mauritius, and especially those part of the world.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me for this very important webinar on Environment Day. I apologize for being late because I've had to talk on two other webinars. I've just finished a very interesting webinar organized by IUCN and Huawei on new technology for conservation. And I'd like to reiterate some of the points I made today, because it's quite, instead of dwelling on negative things that are happening because of the COVID-19 crisis, we must look ahead. So healthy nature means healthy people. So many scientific studies have shown this. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 crisis, which started because of an unhealthy relationship between people and nature, is hollowing out environmental conservation as we know it. The traditional sources of funding are drying out. especially in small island states like Seychelles, Mauritius, and elsewhere, but also in other parts of Africa. The financial concerns include the collapse of tourism, which many of our environmental organizations depend on heavily, sharp and rapid decline in the value of trust funds and investments, and also uncertainty about the continuity of bilateral and multilateral donor funding. Here in Africa, one concern is default by governments, many of whom are already heavily indebted. So our concern as environmental organizations is, will we have enough money to keep staff on or to buy equipment and materials? We've already had problems with volunteers, consultants, and international scientists we work with who've had to go back home or had difficulty in moving around because of the crisis, because of the new rules and concerns. So environmental organizations really, because I'm talking about the ground level here, because that's where I work, we are caught in the blowback. And we must jettison a lot of baggage and move on. But where do we go? And how do we do it? So we are looking for new kinds of support. We have to learn new ways of doing things and do more with less. And as we've just discussed with Huawei and with IUCN, my belief is that the global trend is what is called frontier technologies or disruptive technologies. And I think that's probably the future for environmental conservation as well. And that includes the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, even cryptocurrencies. And these should play quite important roles in the next generation of environmental programs. Traditional environmental programs will need to leapfrog into what I'm calling e-environment, which is a brave new world, but whose foundations are already built. And if we look already, I mean, we are working from home. This whole international conference or meeting is facilitated by Zoom. But this is just the beginning. There will be more interactive and virtual programs that will make remote attendance at meetings, and especially international meetings, more acceptable and productive. And in one way, this may reduce our personal contacts, but in another way, it will hasten the demise of many of these hugely expensive international conferences. We will save on transport, time, budget, and definitely in terms of climate change, shrink our carbon footprint. One of the issues that we are finding in small island states and in Africa is that traditional money is becoming scarce. And I am in particular looking more towards cryptocurrency. Now, China is shaping up to be the first major economy to launch digital money. And we've seen that Facebook and others are also working on their own digital coins. And I think environment programs have to look for these kinds of very innovative and quite different types of funding. And for me, because I run a very old protected area here in the Seychelles, it's 50 years old. It's got the longest running ecotourism program in Seychelles. And we moved from over-tourism in 2018 to zero tourism in 2020. We have absolutely no tourism in the Seychelles. And how do we turn this around? How do we actually get people to come? But maybe what we are trying to do right now is trying to work on what we call remote tourism, live video streaming. And for example, in South Africa, some institutions are already doing that. They are streaming live unscripted safaris with an expert game ranger as a host in a vehicle, on foot, using drones, balloons, rovers, remote cams. So if this is going on, do people think that this is part of a future of tourism, or do we get back to traditional tourism, long-haul travel, which has an impact really on climate change? But the other part of it is, I think a lot of tech which is being developed everywhere around the world, including in India, will reduce the workload and expenses, as has happened in commerce and industry. And so much is already happening. Tracking devices for animals and other equipment can be made cheaply by using 3D printing, for example. Somebody just approached us to 3D print an entire coral reef. Of course, that's not a living reef, and we have to think of new technology to imprint live cells into this 3D printed coral reef. Already people are using drones to plant trees, to do surveillance, anti-poaching patrols, and installing visual and acoustic monitors to inform us of illegal activity. In these large exclusive economic zones like the small island states have, like Mauritius and Seychelles, we have satellites that are already apprising us of illegal fishing in our exclusive economic zones. So I think that moving ahead, maybe this crisis is pushing us along ways of thinking and ways of doing things that we've never thought of before. And what we need right now is we need donors to quickly make the initial investments to catalyze the transition into what I'm calling e-environment. We need global environmental organizations like IUCN, like the World Wildlife Fund, like BirdLife International, which I work for as well, to seize this once-in-a-lifetime moment and bring donor, tech, and environmental communities together for the appropriate setup and tools to be developed. And I think that if such innovative actions not occur fast enough, we will not be able to ensure that nature's infrastructure continue to deliver lasting and healthy solutions for people and the planet. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful views coming from Seychelles. I want to invite Dr. Amiya Kumar Sahu. Dr. Amiya Kumar Sahu is the president of National Solid Waste Association of India, NSWAI, having a little perspective on how India is managing its solid waste and what are the best practices that we have in this solid waste management area. Dr. Sahu, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go on, sir.
Thank you for your invitation to this nice forum on the World Environment Day. And I congratulate you. I congratulate everyone on this very important day of the world. Well, I will talk about the preliminary responsibility of the citizen, how to take care of the environment. That is in the solid waste management. Because we heard a lot about the biodiversity and the climate change, sustainability, and what is happening in the whole world, and a lot of interaction among different countries, and so and so. But the basic thing is every individual have to have our own responsibility to manage the waste which is generated by ourselves. For our own comfort, we use a lot of things, starting from the food to the clothes to many products. But after use, what we do? We just throw it, and without understanding the intricacy of in the adverse impact to the environment of the waste. That's why very important. We need to have awareness and education on the solid waste management. I will throw some light specifically in the Indian perspective. And India, you did not have and the solid waste rule, which recently it has come in 2000. That was the first solid waste rule came to India. Then we modified it in 2016, and now then that led to the present Prime Minister started Clean India Mission, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Then also this present government started the Smart City. All these concepts are fine, but the individual, what the individual has to do, I do not thank to the coronavirus, but because of the coronavirus, now there was a lockdown. Because of the lockdown, we all are in our own place. We are not able to go out. We cannot call our maid servant or any servant to clean our own house. And what has happened in 2.5 months, when we are cleaning our own house, we understand what is the waste, because we clean ourselves. And our servants, they, after all, their employees, they do their work in a limited time and they get away. But now, when you are cleaning yourself in their own house, you clean under the table, under the bed, under the chairs, everything you clean it so nicely because it is your own house. And it is, you have to clean it because there is no alternative. By doing this, now you understand what is the waste and how to segregate the waste. The segregation of the waste is the main action in the solid waste management. Once you segregate the waste properly, then your 75% of the management in solid waste is solved. How to do that? Now we understand, we are doing it in our own house. We segregate the wet and the dry and the chemicals, that is all the drugs and whatever the pesticide we use, and the like harpic and all this thing in the toilets, we also keep it separately, don't mix it with any other waste. Then like that we started learning how to segregate the waste at the household level. Now what has happened, because of this, you know what has happened, the wet waste in the cities are reduced drastically. For example, in Mumbai, the wet waste is reduced to 2,000 to 2,500 tons per day. Can you imagine? And this is because of the lockdown. And not only that, the food waste. You know, we used to depend on our cook, on our the servants. They used to bring whatever we ordered them. They used to cook whatever they like to do, make it, and there was a lot of wastage of food. But now, since we are inside our home and we ourselves we bring it and cook ourselves and eat ourselves, we know what is required for us. And this is the way even the food waste is controlled very well. And that's why the lockdown has given us an excellent awareness and education, automatically to us. I feel that this culture, this social culture has to continue. Our behavior is changed a lot. Without any outsiders' help, we can ourselves do it in India, just like in European countries. We never used to do, we never used to do our own work. It was the prestige conscious. Now, since we are doing our own work, it's a good exercise also for us, because you are not allowed to go out for exercise. This household work is very good exercise. Even cleaning, mopping, everything we do it ourselves. By doing this, we keep our house more clean, better clean, and clean the entire environment. So we have to think locally, act locally and think globally. Unless you action it locally, you cannot, the whole environment cannot become clean. This is the individual's action is very, very important, and this happened only because of the lockdown. That's why I say, you know, but one thing has happened because of this lockdown. A lot of people are suffering in this COVID-19, and because of this infection, there is many people have died, no doubt. Many people are infected, and many hospitals are, they're engaged with all these patients, and because of this, there is a growth of biomedical waste. There is a very good, now the biomedical waste industry is booming, and I get personally about minimum 10 to 15 calls every day for a biomedical waste management. And there is hardly any biomedical waste facility in India today. So this is a good industry, as an industry perspective, the biomedical waste is like that. Sanitary napkin. Nobody used to keep the sanitary napkin, separately. Now, because of this lockdown, everybody realized where to throw it. They keep it separately now. So the societies, they also feel it has to be kept separately and it has to go in the biomedical waste. So these are the awareness education has come automatically to us due to the lockdown. So solid waste management now is improving very well. Now you must have noticed the roads are clean. There is nobody there because of we are not moving. And secondly, we used to go unnecessarily. We used to visit to the clubs, the restaurants, hotels, and we used to consume extra food, extra everything. Now we realized whatever we used to do is all wastage. We now content with our own thing, with our healthy food, with our healthy atmosphere. Everything has become healthier in the entire environment. I thank all of them. And solid waste management slowly it will increase. Improve in every respect, starting from the household to the entire environment. And the municipality could not achieve, the government could not achieve, the rules regulation could not do anything, but now the lockdown has achieved a lot of things. So this is what the solid waste management has done during lockdown in India. So if any question comes, I'm ready to answer. If any suggestion and anything, and see now even the volunteers have come. So many professionals have come out, and all these people now But the common individual has become an expert now in solid waste management. So this is what I just wanted to highlight about solid waste management during the
Thank you, sir. We will come back to you with a lot of questions from our audience.
Sure.
Dr. Besam, if you can kindly introduce our next panelist.
Yeah, so we welcome the next speaker, Prof. Ashok Agrawal. Is the president of Indian Society of Hospital Waste Management. So, Prof. Ashok, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank and compliment the Policy India and Policy Times, I'm sorry, and Mr. Akram for giving me this opportunity to share my views. The speaker before me had just touched upon the waste management and just touched upon the biomedical waste management. I would like to specifically focus on the biomedical waste management scenario in country. And as you rightly pointed out, I am heading the Indian Society of Hospital Waste Management for last 10 years. In India, with the COVID onset in December, January this year, you see the Central Pollution Control Board. The Central Pollution Control Board has come out with the guidelines. Latest guidelines are dated 18th April. And these guidelines are spelling out how the waste management from the hospitals, the quarantine centers, the home care centers, or the home surroundings, how it has to be disposed of. And here I would like to say that the waste has been categorized into three color-coded classification. One is the yellow bins, which are mainly for the biomedical waste generated from the patient, like it can be the body fluid, the blood-soaked cotton, gauze, bandages, expired medicines, or the cytotoxic drugs, and things like that. Then there is a red, bin which collects all the plastic waste, like we have the rubber tubings, we have the PPEs, like the headgear, the goggles, the gloves, and other plastic like hazmat suits. Then we have the sharp waste, which is collected in the white, translucent, puncture-proof containers, like the needles, the blades, and all those things. And then we have the blue, which collects the glass waste. Mainly, the two color things are important here. The yellow, which has to be put into the incineration, because incineration is the only way, because that's highly infectious and contagious, especially with the COVID onset. And then is the RAD and the laboratory waste, which is collected from the laboratory. So these waste in all these bins that I have mentioned, different color bins, they have to be collected in double layered bags. Double layer has to be done. Recently, it has been introduced by the CPCB to make it more strength, so that it doesn't tear off. And then they have to be barcoded, and then they have to be collected by central biomedical waste treatment facilities, which have come up in the country in large number. So it is not really true that we don't have the facilities for taking care of the biomedical waste of plenty, but they are not there in the rural and other peripheral areas. Then you see, we have, in the COVID scenario, all these bins, which I told you, the yellow, the red, and other, they have to be labeled with COVID-19 bins. And the trolleys in which they are collected have to be sanitized and disinfected with 1% sodium hypochlorite. The patients, even if they are not able to move in the bed, elderly patients, and if their diapers with feces, with other body fluids, they have to be also put in the yellow bag and they have to be incinerated. Then, we have the large issue on the PPE, the personal protective equipment, which is being talked about very increasingly. And these PPEs contains the goggles, the face shield, the aprons, the plastic ball, the hazmat suit, and nitrile gloves. And all these have to be put in the red bins or the red bags, which have to be autoclaved and then taken care of. Then we have the other, PPEs, which are the mask, the masks which are worn by the healthcare staff, doctors, nurses. Then we have the caps, the shoe cover, the disposable linen gowns, the non-plastic or the semi-plastic coverall, and all these have to be put in the yellow bag. Again, because they are infected, because mask and all that will be droplet and the sputum infection or the, when we breathe. So they contain infectious COVID-19 virus. They have to be put in the yellow bag and have to be incinerated. And then similarly, when we come to the sample collection centers, blood sample collection centers, the nasal swab, throat swab, all these laboratory waste, which is in the COVID relation, they have to be, so whatever remains, the vacutainers, the samples of the blood or the nasal swabs or the throat swabs, all these have to be pre-treated in the autoclave or in the microwave so that they become disinfected. And they have to be then taken to the common, they have to be handed over to the common biomedical waste treatment facility, which takes it away and then goes it through a multi-option method. So when we come in, this was with relation to the isolation wards in the hospital, but then we have the quarantine centers where the patients of the, who are only mild symptoms and they are being segregated because there are shortage of the beds in the hospitals at many places. Then we have the home care setting. So, when from the quarantine centers and the home care setting, there is an arrangement where the urban local body, the municipal corporations or the municipalities have been tasked to collect this waste, which is the patient, which is coming from the quarantine patients or their suspected contacts. So this waste also has to be collected in the yellow bin or in the, then there is a solid waste, which is the domestic waste that has to be segregated. So similarly, the quarantine centers and the home care patients, their waste has to be also collected from the door to door, from the houses. And if there is no arrangement to collect door to door, then the municipal corporation have to notify which is the local hospital where the tenants can go and deposit that. So this is how the quarantine homes and other places we have to send biomedical waste. But most important thing is that our hospitals or the health sector has been recently classified from the environment point of view by the World Bank as the fifth largest polluter in the world. So if health sector was a country, then we would say that sector is the 5th largest contributor of the pollution to the planet. So therefore, this in the health sector, biomedical waste comprises of one of the important component, and we have to take care of this biomedical waste. And then we have to take care of the healthcare workers. We have to give immunization against hepatitis B. We have to see and do the regular testing so that they don't become, because you must have seen large number of the doctors and nurses are becoming COVID positive. So we have to be very careful with regard to their, sort of looking after we call them the COVID warriors actually. So they have to be taken care of, and we have to provide all support to them and keep them safe so that they can treat the patients. So I think at this moment, this is the only thing that I would like to say. Then maybe I'll join later when the question and answers are there. Thank you very much for giving me this.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you so much, Professor Ashok Kumar Agarwal. Professor Ashok Kumar Agarwal is a very eminent name. He was also the officiated VC, Vice Chancellor at IGNOU, and he was also the former director at Institute of Health Science. And a lot of other things. He has been an excellent contributor in the development of India's health science. Now, I want to come to the final speaker with my co-moderator, Dr. Vesam. And this, I think, very nicely mentioned by Dr. Amia Kumar Sahu, that we have to think globally but act locally. And this is where the point comes, that we have one social activist, Mr. Tanvir Mirza, based in Nagpur. And this is also my focus area was that I wanted to have some local small solutions from any part of the world and present it to the global audience that, okay, this is the model and this is how we can make change at local level. Because when we act locally and with a global impact, it brings change. And this change then, collectively make a huge difference to the society. Last point I will come, I have a couple of more issues because we are not addressing two core other areas. One, I would request Dr. Vesam to focus or view on the air pollution issue, because air pollution is a big issue, and what are the latest facts and figures one of our participants have asked. The other is the Yale University yesterday came up with an indicator, environmental performance index, and I think so far we have not talked about that, and what is the new finding in that, and how our country is ranking now. But before that, Mr. Tanvir Mirza is a social activist. He's the founder of Yashodhara NGO, which is doing wonderful, based in Nagpur, he's an environmental practitioner doing small things in the state of Maharashtra, which is making huge contribution in agriculture, in animal husbandry, and a lot of other local issues. Mr. Mirza, if I can request and welcome you to share your views, what are the local such solutions that we can adopt which can have global impact?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Akram, Policy Times, and our University of Malaysia. And thank you. It's a really great pleasure and wonderful learning experience for me from Amir Sahu sir, Nirmal Shah Saab, and Prafull Pathak sir, and especially Ashok Kumar Agarwal sir. And I'm really very sorry. My major viewers are from rural background and they don't know much English. Me also. They are well versed in Marathi. They are well versed in Marathi. So kindly allow me to speak in English and Hindi and mix English with the apologies to Dr. So actually, first of all, sir, it's my request from morning. We are mentioning the crisis as a climate change. It's not climate change, it's a climate breakdown. Normally, when we are suffering from any heart disease, जब भी हमारे को इस तरीके की कोई समस्या हो जाती है, so we mention it as a heart fail or heart attack, not heart change. It's not, our heart at that time was not changing. It's totally going towards failure. So it's a really climate breakdown. और हमने इसको we have underestimated this crisis. इस क्राइसिस को हमने उतना अच्छा जिस तरीके से समझा नहीं है. सर ने भी बताया, हमें साहू सर ने भी उसी चीज को मेंशन किया था. एंड सेकंड थिंग, जब कार्डियक अरेस्ट हो जाता है सो और सीरियस अटैक होने के बाद में वी हैव टू फॉर सर्वाइवल वी हैव टू फॉलो एंड ओबे स्ट्रिक्ट रूल्स एंड वी हैव टू पुट ऑल दैट एक्शंस इन आवर लाइफ, डे टू डे लाइफ। और वही चीज हम यहाँ पे डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं। ठीक है, ओके, हमने नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स वी आर लूजिंग, बायोडाइवर्सिटी वी आर लूजिंग सो मेनी स्पीसीज, वी आर लूजिंग many things and we are continuously going towards the losses. Okay, fine, but who is the main culprit? कौन है इसका main culprit? कौन है सर? The main culprit for this all climate breakdown is our all greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, CO2, and most dangerous and hazardous, as we mentioned already, our last panelist mentioned methane, that is the outcome of failure of solid waste management. Methane is almost 43 times hazardous than this carbon dioxide. After that, water vapor we are creating due to heat, due to temperature. Nitrous oxide is also there. So for this, who is created all this? Who is going to create and who is continuously generating and creating all these greenhouse gases, all this culprit? It is our local. We are creating this. Every local step, every local greenhouse emission effect we are generating is impacting globally. So for that, we have to act first of all at local level. So who is responsible and who is accountable for local level? Okay, n number of stakeholders are there. Maybe बहुत कुछ है, but we thought, we first of all decided to go from our NGO for sustainable development goal. We selected number 13, SDG number 13, climate action, and for that we targeted our people, our public. Without public participation हम कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते। ये मेन चीज है, पब्लिक, और स्पेशली वो पब्लिक, ऐसी पब्लिक जो इन चीजों को समझती है, ऐसी पब्लिक जिसके पास में समस्याएं, ऐसी पब्लिक जिसके पास में इस थ्रेट्स के कारण इनडायरेक्टली सफर कर रही है और अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की तरफ में जा रही है। यूथ हमारा है, हमारे स्टूडेंट्स है, और इन सबको हमने एक टारगेट लेके उसके बाद में ये काम शुरू किया। एक फॉर्मूला हमने भी डिजाइन है, वन फॉर्मूला, ट्रिपल ES, EEES, एनवायरमेंट, एनर्जी, इकोनॉमी एंड सोसाइटी। पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन अगर आपको चाहिए, सो अनटिल अनलेस आप उनको रोजगार से नहीं जोड़ेंगे, अनटिल अनलेस आप उनको मॉनेटरी गेन से नहीं जोड़ेंगे, अनटिल अनलेस आप उनको डे टू डे लाइफ से हैंड टू माउथ लोगों को नहीं जोड़ेंगे, तब तक के वो चीज आपका मिशन नहीं बनेगा। अदरवाइज वी आर ऑल एनवायरमेंट लवर्स, वी लव प्लांटेशन, वी लव बर्ड सेविंग, वी लव इकोलॉजी सेविंग, वी लव एवरीथिंग, बट दैट लव इज लिमिटेड फॉर अ सर्टेन टाइम। एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम के बाद में हमारा चैरिटी खत्म हो जाता है। भूखे पेट भजन ना हो गोपाला, उसके लिए हमको कहीं ना कहीं चरितार्थ के साथ में, दाल रोटी के साथ में, रोजी रोटी के साथ में इन चीजों को जोड़ना है। इस थ्रेट को हमको अपॉर्चुनिटी के साथ में जोड़ना है। दैट्स व्हाई वी सिलेक्टेड दिस ट्रिपल ES फॉर्मूला। अभी एनर्जी में बहुत बड़ा चांस है, एनर्जी ही बहुत बड़ा प्रोड्यूसर है कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का, एनर्जी है बहुत बड़ा हैजार्डियस गैसेस को प्रोड्यूस करने वाला, थर्मल एनर्जी उसके अंदर में बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करता है। एनवायरमेंट में बहुत सारा लंबा विंडो है। अब इनको हम इकोनॉमिक्स को और सोसाइटी को अगर हम साथ में जोड़ देते हैं, तो हमने स्टार्ट किया 50% ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस जो हमारा एग्रीकल्चर है, हमारा फूड है, फूड को जनरेट करना, फूड को ग्रो करना, फूड ग्रोथ के बाद में पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी की तरफ लेके जाना, वेस्ट को ट्रांसफर करना, उसके बाद में खाना, और खाने के बाद में जैसा कि सर ने अभी बताया कि कोविड में हमने देखा कचरा कहाँ गया, बट किचन वेस्ट एंड फूड वेस्ट, एक सिटी लाइक हमारा महानगर, छोटा सा महानगर नागपुर, alone the Nagpur city is generating 950 metric ton per day, and out of that 950 metric ton, almost 65% is biodegradable. That is our kitchen waste, that is our food waste, that is our leaves, and that all we can process, we can convert it into gold. It's not a waste, it's a gold, but just हमने उसको बाहर डंप कर दिया। हमारा म्युनिसिपल बॉडीज ने, हमारा लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने लैंडफिल में किया, लैंडफिल के बाद में वो सड़ने लगा, लीचिंग होने लगी, एंड अगेन वी आर सफरिंग फ्रॉम चिकनगुनिया, डेंगू, मलेरिया, और अभी हो सकता है कि वो कोरोना का भी वो कारण बने कि ये इससे लीड करेगा, कोरोना जल्दी हो जाएगा। एंड व्हाट अ जोक कि नियर अबाउट 150 किलोमीटर पे मेरा फार्मर सुसाइड करता है कि उसके पास में इनपुट्स नहीं है, मैन्योर नहीं है, यूरिया, पोटैश, केमिकल, डीएपी, फॉस्फेट, ऑल दिस जो हमारा इंडियन कल्चर में कभी नहीं था, हमको इसकी जरूरत कभी नहीं थी। हमारी गाय, हमारी बैल, हमारा भैंस, हम ये सारी चीजें सस्टेनेबली हम उससे मैन्योर ग्रो करके लोकल लेवल पे बहुत अच्छा हेल्दी फ्रूट हम डेवलप करते थे। बट ड्यू टू ट्रैप ऑफ कंज्यूमरिज्म, बट ड्यू टू कॉपी पेस्ट कल्चर, वी अडॉप्टेड ऑल दिस इन ड्यूरिंग दिस 50 ईयर ओनली, और हमने सारा रिप्लेस कर दिया। मैं यहाँ पे 950 मैट्रिक टन में से 65% वेस्ट को मैं टॉक्सिसिटी में लैंडफिल में कन्वर्ट कर रहा हूँ, हैजार्डियस बना रहा हूँ, और 150 किलोमीटर पे 2 बैग के लिए मेरा फार्मर सुसाइड कर रहा है। सो व्हाई नॉट कन्वर्ट दिस थ्रेट इनटू अपॉर्चुनिटी? एन नंबर ऑफ अनएम्प्लॉयड ग्रेजुएट्स है हमारे पास में। सेम स्टोरीज विद एग्रीकल्चर इनपुट्स। Why purchase all costly seeds from multinational companies from other countries? जबकि हमारा दूधो नहाओ पूतो फलो संस्कृति, हमारा कृषि प्रधान देश, हमारी भारतीय संस्कृति, हमारे पास में हमारे ओन सीड होते थे, हमारा खुद का हर गांव में, हर मोहल्ला में, हर खेत में अपना खुद का सीड बैंक हुआ करता था। सो व्हाई टू परचेस ऑल दिस? एंड हमारा पूरा का पूरा रूरल इकोनॉमी को डिस्टर्ब करते हुए पूरा का पूरा पैसा हम बाहर बेचते हैं। वी परचेसिंग पेस्टिसाइड, वी आर परचेसिंग विडिसाइड, वी आर परचेसिंग बूस्टर, वी आर परचेसिंग विटामिन, एंड वी आर इवन परचेसिंग ऑल सीड्स। देयर इज वन पपाया सीड, ताइवान, वी आर ऑल importing it from Taiwan. In entire country you will not never find देसी पपाया। बचपन में आप लोगों ने देखा होगा पपाया जब हम काटते थे, so bulk of seed we are getting from it, and just by drying it we are again regerminating that same seed. लेकिन अभी ऐसा नहीं होता है। Again we have to purchase, and 4 lakh rupees per kg we are purchasing. Same story with all vegetables, same story with all grains, even our fruits are there. So from where we can improve our economy, and where is the sustainability? Transportation, production, everything, again that vicious cycle is generating and generating carbon footprint. So we break that chain. We started our organic farming. Thanks God, more than 550 farmers are growing their own. They are having their own seed. They are germinating. We are having 4 showrooms, and people are just lifting like anything. बहुत ज्यादा people are crazy for pure food. People are crazy for organic. बहुत ज्यादा डिमांड है। सेम स्टोरी ग्रोसरी के साथ में, सेम स्टोरी अल्टरनेट फूड्स के साथ में। शुगर का अल्टरनेट गुड़ है, हमारा रिफाइंड ऑयल का अल्टरनेट हमारा प्योर देसी घानी का कच्चा ऑयल है, कोल्ड प्रोसेस ऑयल। Just there is one place, Savner, 40 kilometers from Nagpur. We are having one wonderful residential school there. 300 children of primary school. They are circulating seeds. They are distributing groundnut seed in 20 villages. Villages are growing that organic groundnut. Students are collecting the same groundnut, and they are now making oil out of that. Abhyuda Nisarga oil. And they are marketing it. They are having tremendous demand for that. They are collecting cows, and they are having very good dairy farm over there. Almost 60 cows are there. Desi cow maximum of them. Now we have procured one this paneer machine. Now value addition is there. See, we are saving our cost. We are developing sustainability. And we are at the same time, we are inculcating entrepreneurship and small rural entrepreneurship amongst those children. 10th class, 10th class पास होने तक वो बच्चा अपना बिजनेस अपने पैर पे खड़ा कर लेगा. Now it's his choice whether to get graduation degree, post graduation, doctor and all other. But he can survive in society. For him, in future, degree will not be disease to carry on. That's so simple. इसके बाद में ये एक एग्जांपल, इसके बाद में वाटर मैनेजमेंट, पानी अभी हम मिस कर गए, हमने बस मिस कर दिया। अभी रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग, वी हैव नॉट कलेक्टेड एनीथिंग ड्यू टू दिस लॉकडाउन। जस्ट अभी रेनफॉल बहुत तेज आने वाला है, सर ने बताया, इसके पहले भी हम देख चुके, बहुत बेहतरीन प्रेजेंटेशंस, बहुत बढ़िया, यूनेस्को से लेके सारे लर्नेड हमारे फैकल्टी, हमारे पैनलिस्ट जितने भी आए थे, उन्होंने बताया अभी कि किस तरीके से वाटर लेवल डिटोरिएट होता जा रहा है। इन सिंगल अगर 10,000 हेक्टर अगर एक एरिया को हम लेते हैं, वो निर्माता ने हमको अंड्यूलेटिंग लैंड दिया है। अगर हम सॉइल वाटर कंजर्वेशन स्ट्रक्चर्स अगर करते हैं, अगर हम उसके अंदर में बंड्स बनाते हैं, छोटे छोटे चेक डैम्स बनाते हैं, वेल्स बनाते हैं, तो उसके अंदर में अगर मिनिमम रेनफॉल 400 mm का भी अगर होता है, जिसको हमारा मेट्रोलॉजिकल डिपार्टमेंट ड्रॉप डिक्लेयर करता है, दुष्काल घोषित किया जाता है, अकाल सूखा घोषित किया जाता है, मिनिमम रेनफॉल इज 350 और 300। अगर उतना भी होता है और 10,000 हेक्टर में, दैट इज विजिबल विद आवर नेकेड आईज ओनली, बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा एरिया नहीं होता 10,000 हेक्टर, उसके अंदर भी अगर इतना पानी हम जमा करते हैं, तो यू कांट बिलीव कि हमने 200 करोड़ लीटर पानी जमा कर लिया। इफ यू कन्वर्ट इट इन टैंकर्स, इट इज 1,25,000 ट्रैक्टर्स। इफ यू कन्वर्ट इट इनटू मॉनेटरी, इट इज वर्थ ऑफ 60 करोड़ रुपीस। हमारा गांव गरीब इसलिए है क्योंकि हम 60 करोड़ का पानी दान कर देते हैं, बहा देते हैं नदी नाले में। हम इसलिए गरीब नहीं है कि हमारी जमीन खराब है, हम इसलिए गरीब नहीं है कि हम फॉरवर्ड कंट्री नहीं है, हम इसलिए गरीब है कि अवेलेबल रिसोर्सेज को सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के जरिए से हम उन चीजों को कलेक्ट नहीं करते हैं, एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं करते हैं, एक्सप्लोर नहीं करते हैं, जो कि हमारे लिए नया नहीं है, हमारा ओल्ड ट्रेडिशन इंडियन सिस्टम में, हमारे कल्चर में था। सो वाटर मैनेजमेंट से रिलेटेड माइक्रो इरिगेशन है, ड्रिप इरिगेशन है, उसके साथ में रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग है, रिचार्जिंग है, बोरवेल्स को रिचार्ज करना है, उसी तरह से एनर्जी को अगर कंजर्वेशन करना है, सो सोलर एनर्जी है। सोलर का जब भी हम डिस्कशन करते हैं, वी आर डिस्कसिंग ओनली हाउस होल्ड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, नहीं, उसके अलावा हमारे पास में फेंसिंग बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम, हमारे पास में जानवर के प्रॉब्लम की वजह से कई सारे फार्मर छोड़ चुके हैं, बट सोलर फेंसिंग इज एन एक्सेलेंट सोल्यूशन। रिमोट एरिया में सोलर पंपिंग फॉर लिफ्टिंग द वाटर इज एक्सेलेंट सोल्यूशन। इवन फॉर अवॉइडिंग पेस्टिसाइड, our rural entrepreneurs and our students are making solar trap for pesticide. दिन में सोलर एनर्जी कलेक्ट होगा, रात में वो लैंप लगेगा, जो बर्ड फ्लाई है, जो इंसेक्ट है, वो उसके तरफ अट्रैक्ट होगा एंड ही विल डाई इन टैप। आपको पेस्टिसाइड मारने की जरूरत नहीं है। अल्टीमेटली यू सेव दैट बायोडाइवर्सिटी, बिकॉज व्हेन वी आर स्प्रेइंग दैट पेस्टिसाइड, वी आर finishing n number of other biodiversities and other ecological elements in that. और वो जो integrated pest management का हमारा जो इंडियन कॉन्सेप्ट था, we just rejected it. So
if you can conclude in 1 or 2 minutes, within 1
yes, sir. So finally making threats into opportunity, creating livelihood for a better future, creating entrepreneurs, rural entrepreneurs, agri entrepreneurs, all these through our sustainable system with our available resources, with least of transportation, with least of carbon footprint is our strength, and we can do it. And finally, when we are talking about sustainability is not new for us. It is the word aparigraha, and it is in our system, in our religion. Aparigraha means using minimum available resources for your need and making minimum of impact on the system and ecology whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tanveer Mirza from Nagpur, for sharing some wonderful views on this. Now I want to come to all our panelists. If Mr. I think so, if you can switch on all your camera, Mr. Nirmal Shah, Excellency, if you can also switch on your camera, we will have a complete interactive session now. I just want to expand my screen here so that I can take more and more questions. Brother Vesam, if you can also take some questions from here. Dr. Vesam, so let's next 30 to 40 or in fact 1 hour on a thorough answers of all the questions and views that our participants have expressed. Yeah, because they all are learned people, either they are college professors or school principals. As I can see, a lot of people have raised a lot of valid points and questions. Yeah, Dr. Vesa.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Akram. I think you asked just like a few minutes earlier so that I can share something on air pollution.
Right, please. In the
Okay.
meantime, yeah, please go on.
Yeah, so just a quick points. Few of the speakers, they touch on the climate change, which is basically an air pollution issue. The root of the root cause of the climate change is global warming, and we are talking about the emissions. And beside that, we are talking about a huge impact on health and economy. And as we all knew about the report last year from WHO, which state that 7 million people dying annually because of air pollution. And that is, when you talk about the Indian scenario, you're talking about 1 million premature deaths annually in India. And a cost about $2.5 trillion to the economy, to the world economy, a loss due to air pollution. And in the case scenario of India, we are talking about 150 billion USD annually. And if you look, maybe because we are trying to conclude here, but there are some really crucial figures for especially the policymakers to know about them. Because, I'll just give a specific example about India, which is very interesting. So now, due to the pandemic, they expect that the economic growth in India will shrink in like 2.5%. While from air pollution, India is losing 5.4% of the GDP annually. We are talking about 150 billion USD annually. Plus, you have 1 million premature deaths in India alone. And globally, we are talking about 7 million. So I'm always trying to, promote that as a disaster, as an atmospheric disaster. And if you want to compare it with the previous disasters, I have one graph which shows the disasters along the history, and you are talking from 1900 up to 2018. And the peak of the disasters was in 1930, and we are talking about 3.5 million victims. While again, I want to stress on the same number, we are having now 7 million people dying because of air pollution. That is an annual. And to the global economy, we're talking about $2.5 trillion, which is far beyond the loss because of the pandemic, far beyond all the disasters cumulative along the history. So this is a very serious issue which need to be tackled on the local level and global level. And definitely to combat air pollution, you need an integrated efforts by the governments, by the academic institution, NGOs and industries. And we have to think positively about it, because the main problem is from the industrial sector. When you talk about air pollution, they consider it as a burden. While we have to look at the holistic approach where we are talking about the nationwide loss that will cause everybody a trouble. When the country is losing 150 billion for India and for the world 2.5 trillion, that can mean a lot if we invest part of it for the control of the pollutants, for air pollution, while you can save the health of the public and you can save a lot of money of that. So this is what I wanted to share on air pollution.
Thank you, Dr. Vesam. Very nice. I will take 2 more minutes and share a very important part of the discussion. Yesterday, Yale University, one of the best universities in the world, they have published this Environmental Performance Index just before the World Environment Day. And I just wanted to show you, there are 32 categories, adjusted emissions growth rate for black carbon, and then a lot of emission of carbon dioxide, F gases, methane, nitrous oxide, sulfur oxide, agriculture, air quality, biodiversity and habitat, biodiversity habitat index, climate change. So like 31 categories are there. Water resources, unsafe drinking water, tree cover loss, terrestrial biome protection. So 31, land area, heavy metals, greenhouse gas emissions, GDP per capita equally. They have also taken the fisheries and fish stock. Now, here, see, this is the global ranking, and certainly Denmark tops the ranking with 82.5 and 7.2 10-year change. Luxembourg second, Switzerland third, United Kingdom, very surprisingly, very nicely in fact, United Kingdom ranks fourth, France, most of the European countries you see here. So as one of our speakers saying that Europe really does well. So other than Europe, we have here Australia, Japan. Japan has also been extremely doing well here. New Zealand here, other than European, I'm just mentioning, Canada, then we have Malta. Malta has also none. And United States ranking 24. I would be extremely happy to see China, where China is. China ranks 120. That's very bad. Let me see where India ranks 168. So China 120. And just let's go to region wise. If you see South Asia, because primarily we are from Asia, see here, Bhutan is relatively better. Sri Lanka, Maldives, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh. India is ranking 168. Afghanistan is far below here. If we see Asia Pacific, also Japan tops here, and South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan. This is just small perspective I just wanted to give before we come back to the question and answer session. I want to request all our speakers to kindly unmute yourself, and let's take what our viewers. I'm really sorry to all our participants. I cannot take you for your voice call, or if our speakers wishes, we can also take a couple of voice calls or voice message or voice questions. Otherwise, there are a lot of questions here in the chat box, and I will take each of them, and I'll take views from our experts. There will be some technical and some normal. So a couple of observations here. Really, we are going through a very scary disaster due to environmental pollutions than this. So I will take only questions, not the observations, so that can I contact after the conference? So, okay. So we have a school principal, a very nice school based in Odisha, and he's asking that being the toxicologist, Dr. Satyajit is asking one question to draw your attention: why the toxic dynamic effect of the so-called scientists from the management schools are playing the role of statistic, naturo sustainability? So it's a pretty complicated and difficult question. I'd pass it on to our experts here. Can I go to the... so even in Delhi, so one Professor Nagalasmi Rao, the HOD International Studies at MET, so even in Delhi, we are generating 4,000 metric ton of waste per day, which is again biodegradable. Thanks for organizing this. Sir, is there any okay, so this is not the question. It's my research. Actually, so many messages, so it's quite difficult to get. In ocean, since the earth plate move or drifted, which is one of the reasons for tsunami. Akhtar Hussain is asking, my question is there any relation with climatic change? So the earth plate move and climate change. He's asking, is there any relation? So anyone, you can start also answering in between. Sir.
Yeah, basically, the plate movement is linked to tectonic activity. So these tectonic plates normally move, and you see that when there was that there was a submergence of a couple of plates in that region. But really, the plates are not moving because of climate change.
Thank you. So please answer in bullet points so that we can save time, and I can also get another question. How we will use solar energy in water supply distribution network system for Indian farmers? If any of you would like to answer this. Prabhul sir, please.
In fact, government has initiated one Kusum scheme wherein the government has come up with funding for solar water pumps that can be utilized in the farms, that is utilized for agriculture. So that is one thing which is already there. That those are the initiatives of the government. But I personally feel that it is up to us. As we were listening to Mr. Mirza, he is doing a lot of things in Nagpur and his areas. So that type of initiative is required everywhere. See, somebody will come and he will give me the things and then I will put it. That should not be there. We people at Solar Energy Society of India are available here. If you want to do something, you can contact us. We can provide you the authentic information. We cannot come and put the things there. So my suggestion on this is there are a lot of things which are possible. Even it is not required to do big things. You can have a small things, and that small things can make your life better. Solar equipment, solar material, then solar gadgets, those are available. And I personally feel in the rural area, this type of distributed generation, which we come with the help of solar or even biomass and biogas, these type of renewable energy sources are there. So we need to try for that, and that this will definitely make our life better, and it will be helpful to betterment of environment.
The one very nice suggestion came from Dr. Lalta, saying politicians do not work accordingly. Government not by scientific advisors. This is basic problem and gap between policymakers and scientific advisors. This is the right example of doctors in China. Doctors advised the government to control COVID-19, but the government could not do the right action for safety. And the same goes with the climate change issue. Okay, I'm looking for some questions. In the meantime, what are the concrete solutions for climate change impact on surface and groundwater? Do you think that geospatial technology, GIS and remote sensing can help us in the better solution? What are the concrete solutions for climate change impact? So anyone would like to club this question together, answer.
One of the thing which we experience during the lockdown or during this pandemic, see, though it's not good to lock down everything, but in the first 3 weeks, we have observed that there is a lot of climate change. So basically, this is also one thing which we should learn, that can we have a lockdown once in a year?
Yeah.
Because
here, there is one nice question. What will be the future policy of government and environmentalists post-COVID situation as the future starting healing in himself? Muhammad Ali Mehboob Hassan, assistant teacher, Osmania High Madrasa, Murshidabad, West Bengal. So what kind of action government can take so that the impact or the initiatives go on from here? If someone knows where it is coming, kindly I think Ashok sir, the music.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? Sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't get it because there was.
What are the actions, policy actions can be taken so that we can mitigate the environmental impact
of the medical waste?
Yeah, you can.
Is it related?
No. This is in general, like policy impact. Though we have discussed since the beginning on this. Acha, this is a nice question. How do we break this century-old habits of polluting or pollution making, which has been stick to our normal socio-cultural lives? This is a common question, but yeah, if you would like to touch upon.
Like lockdown has changed our behavior. That's how it is. Policy did not. There is a rule. There is a policy of the government that we have to segregate the waste. It did not happen. So lockdown has, forced us to do it.
Yes.
So this and this behavior has to continue.
Right. So,
But sir, before going outside, we should go inside. सोचना चाहिए कि हमको ये क्या करना है और क्या नहीं करना है.
So basically,
this is, you know,
And I want to comment something on Dr. Washim's this thing. So many people died because of the air pollution. Is it because of the ambient air or the indoor air? You see,
both. Indoor, if indoor, we are talking about 3.8 million globally.
I don't believe the statistics. Whatever is given, that's fine. But I'm just asking because I'm supposed to be an air pollution expert. And see, ambient air today, during the lockdown, after the lockdown, now you see that during lockdown the air is clean. The whole country, entire country, the air is very clean now. Okay, why it suddenly become clean in 2 months? Is it because of industries are not locked down? Industry are working. It is because of the automobiles, they are not running. Is it because of that? Is it because, how many people have died because of the air pollution? See, I tell you, air pollution because of the pulmonary infection. Poor people, they live in a small house, small room. They cook there. They don't use the gas. They use only the coal. And because of the coal and all these things, they inhale, all these pollutants, they die.
Yeah. And that's why more than half dying because of indoor.
Only recently, government started supplying the gas. Otherwise, there was no gas. Isn't it? And now we have to study. We have to study what are the real factor why people die. And many people working in the brick industry nearby that, they live. Go and see how they live.
One nice angle came. How can we? What is your view on noise pollution? How can a sound pollution policy change the environmental degradation in India? Noise pollution.
Silent. During lockdown, it becomes silent. There is no noise pollution at all. We used to monitor noise in Mumbai. I myself used to monitor in long back in 70s, 80s. And now this is noise pollution is only because of the transportation. Now just stop. There is no transportation, there is no noise. Okay.
Yeah, but I think we need to think on a sustainable approach, right?
Yes.
Like some people, proposing to look down. I'm not in favor of that proposal because you will lose at the economy side. So what we need to think on how to balance the economy need with the protection of the environment. Yeah. We take some of the profits from the industry and we invest on the environment. So same time we protect the environment, we protect the public health, and we save the economy as well. So that will be a more sustainable and long-term approach.
Yeah, it will be. So what provided? You see, I always say there are 3 idioms, that is ethics, environment, and economy. But unfortunately, we are pressing on economy, then come to environment, then we are forgetting ethics. If you really maintain your ethics, then environment will be very good. If the environment is good, automatically your economy also will grow. This is the principle I do.
So it's very clear. It's very clear from scientific studies that have already been done recently. There are some papers that have already been published that shows that the reduction in emissions, the reduction in various heavy metals, wildlife coming back to cities and so forth are directly linked to the reduction in industrial and commercial activities. There are direct links to all of that. So now what at this global policy level, which is what I'm involved in, the discussion is how do we learn from this and how do we green the economy so that we've learned that, hey, it's not very difficult to actually get wildlife coming back to some of these polluted places. It's not very difficult to get reduction in emissions, but the economy, the GDPs have to grow. So let us try and look at ways of reducing emissions, greening the economy. Even in the small island states, we're talking about blueing our economies, so that it's not business as usual. We need to go to a level where it's business unusual, but at the same time, try to grow economies.
I'll give you one example. Our Mirza Sahib has given a very good example. A greenhouse gas, it is because of the dumping of the waste. Yes. Not only that, it gives methane gas emission, plus groundwater, because the leachate that also gets spoiled, and your rivers are spoiled, ponds are spoiled, groundwater is spoiled. See, because of this, and I had given an alternative technology. I had seen it in Israel, Tel Aviv, and that is biomethanation plant. Go for biomethanation decentralized, and the slurry which comes out is the excellent manure, and then you get the methane gas. That gas can be filtered and it can be stored. It can be used for the fuel as a fuel. Why can't the government go for the biomethanation plant and decentralized? And our so-called commissioners and ministers, they visited the plant. They visited. Everybody goes for the sightseeing, but they don't adopt the technology into the country. That is the problem.
Thank you. Praful Pathak, sir, your last comment. Any last comment or views you want to keep?
Yeah. Thank you, Akram. It was a wonderful experience for me. Thank you to the Policy Times. I have to leave. Even I don't want to go, but I have some other engagements, so I have to go. Once again, it's a learned panelist. Really, I'm very thankful to you for connecting me to such a highly educated, high sense people, and definitely would like to be associated with you people here henceafter for the betterment of environment. Thank you.
We will definitely work with you for long, sir. Solar is the future, and we will
want to continue. Thank you, everyone.
So there is a question.
Excuse me.
Thank you, sir. There is a question: what is the role of environmental lawyers to punish offenders of the environment? Anonymous attendee, he didn't disclose the name. And don't we need these lawyers in present times? So should we have strict law and punishment?
There is one body that is called NGT, National Green Tribunal. It is appointed by the government of India. They are the judges of environmental judges. And so naturally, if any industry has some environmental problem, they can appoint the lawyers, environmental lawyers. They can argue in favor of the industry with the in front of the NGT. So that's good. Yeah.
And one question is there on the Ashok sir, if you are there.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, please.
There is one question by Dr. Astha Patil. Due to COVID-19, now everyone is using disposable masks, hand gloves, and again it will add more waste, disturbing climate. How to stop these disposable things? Plastic, rubber items will add more to air and soil pollution. From Astha Patil from SNDTW.
Yeah, thank you for this question, Astha. We can't get away with this because the use of masks by the healthcare workers, especially doctors, nurses, or the sanitation workers in the hospital is absolutely necessary because the cases are rising in leaps and bounds. And if we do not use this disposable mask and caps and the gowns and gloves and the face shield, then we are exposing the healthcare workers and other people. Even in the quarantine homes and home care, we have to use the mask, and that protects us, that protects others also. Because the only method of transmitting, the most common method of transmitting this virus is via droplet infection. So there has to be some barrier, and this barrier is only through mask and gloves and caps and face shields. So this COVID will not last forever. So I think we should use it for till the time we overcome this crisis. And I think we should be okay, maybe in a month or 2 or 3 months time. And then on the case-to-case basis, we can use the mask and caps. Otherwise, it is not necessary to always use these mask and caps in normal situations.
For Excellency Nirmal Shah, very important, one of my viewers have asked that what are the possible trade-offs of adapting sustainable development strategy in developing countries like India?
Yeah, so I think that we have to look at trade-offs. But I think that more and more, because of technology, we can actually reduce some of these trade-offs. Like, for example, the last time I was in India, I met with some manufacturers who were working with local government to install these machines that take water out of air and to supply water-starved villages in Rajasthan and places like that. And my advice to them was, rather than use fossil fuels to do that, they should install PV to actually drive these things. They will be completely autonomous. And if you look at India globally, India is the 5th largest GDP in the world today, 5th largest. In 2019, it overtook UK. And yet, if you look at the Yale Environmental Performance Index, which you just showed us, it's really way down there. Okay, it's almost at, it's ranking towards the bottom. So I think India as a nation has to make some sort of decision. Does wealth equals only money, or does wealth also equals other things, happiness, all the human indicators that the UNDP publishes in their social indications. So that's where India has to make a decision. Is happiness equals only to money, or is wealth only money, or is it other things as well? Whenever I come to India, I'm astonished at the lack of improvement in pollution, in solid waste management, and also in terms of some of the bigger companies having social programs. So I think those are the sort of things that we should be looking at.
Excellent. One more question, maybe Mr. Tanvir Mirza can answer, is Ruhul Amin is asking the same thing. SK Hikmat almost saying that what are the roles and responsibilities developing countries can take. But one question was, there is a soil pollution. What are the things or actions can be taken to stop soil pollution?
See, first of all, soil pollution is totally due to our uses of pesticide first. Second thing, day by day, our water level is decreasing. In an average, our district water level is more than 650 feet. In many places, is it 800 feet and more than that. And that water below 150 feet contains mercury, contains fluoride, and contains so many other metal content also. So excessive use of pesticide and drawdown of this groundwater level, and whatever that extra things we are using for our regular practices, that can be provided. And second most important thing is use of plastic. At least instead of this using reuse, recycle, etc., we should adopt refuse policy. At least don't accept unnecessary, unwanted things. We can avoid number of things. And then again we are dumping in our ground. Again we are pouring in our ground through water leaching, like sir said during this solid waste management. Due to this leaching of this liquid and toxicity, again landfill get again hazardous in condition. So there are number of things. Sir, I think South sir wants to add something. Sir, please.
Soil is already polluted, so soil has to be remediated.
Your voice is coming low, sir. If you can be a little louder.
How do we remediate the soil? Soil remediation is must. That is it is a process, chemical process. So if it is acidic soil, then we have to add some chemical, make it neutralize. like that. No, it is a big process. It is cost a lot of money, and India so far, all dump yards are not being remediated because of the money.
Okay. Let me take some voice call. Though this would be the last written question I will take, because it's a very interesting one, an ethical one. Will Earth do better without the existence of human? Are we, or as we have definitely overstepped our boundary as to how we can impact nature? And that this question is posed by anonymous attendee. So he doesn't want to disclose, he or she doesn't want to disclose his name. But do you think, Excellency Nirmal Shah?
Yeah, so the question is, will Earth do better without humans? But without humans, we will not know if Earth is doing better or not, because there will be nobody to measure it. We can't answer that question as such. But definitely, I think the solutions are within our grasp to remediate and to restore and to fix a lot of these problems if there's a political will, if some of our NGOs like Mr. Mirza's and my NGOs and others are moving from the ground up. I'll give you just a simple example, but not very long. Some of you may know that one of the biggest impacts of climate change is the destruction of coral reefs, like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Now, coral reefs are very important for tropical countries. They provide food, tourism, barriers to storms and tsunamis, and so forth. In my country, which was a very rich coral reef area, climate change has destroyed 90% of our reefs. My organization started the world's largest coral reef restoration program 10 years ago, and we've restored 6,000 square meters of degraded reef. So yes, we have solutions. The solutions are in our grasp. We just need to go on and do it.
I will take some voice questions. Like I did not know, because I'm also learning technology. I think we can allow voice talk. So Dr. P.B. Tiwari, Monali, Chauhan, Mojidur Rahman, and Ari Vansari, you have raised your hands. I will just allow you to talk. So if you can unmute yourself and talk. Dr. P.B. Tiwari, sir, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? I think we have a provision. Satyajit Hota sir has also come here. So I am allowing a couple of people to talk. So if you can, okay. I think it might, Satyajit Hota, can you hear us, Dr. Satyajit Hota?
Yes, sir.
So if you can ask your question.
Sir, it's my great opportunity which has given and facilitated by Policy Times. I extend my thanks to them, as well as the panel of intelligence, who has rendered their most jammy conversations from the beginning. One of my asking question is that I am from a rural side of India, where from childhood we have seen the purity, less pollution. But whatever the thing imposed over us, that question already I have raised earlier, that it is given by some scientist or by the students of management, the scholars of management. Suppose plastics, my forefather has never used it. So like vaccine is now developing from all the country. My question is there, why vaccine is not inputting to our body immediately? Because they are now constantly observing that what will be the long run process effect. So why giving any scientific tools on our hand, that to be laymen like us, why before that it will not go into the lab of environmentologist?
Thank you, sir.
Why it is imposing over us? Right? So this is my question. And it is most toxic effect for all the human kingdoms. Before giving anything, before marketing anything, please give this thing. It should also pass from the Department of Environmentology.
I think you asked the question and you also answered it very well. So anyone would like to?
No. Is it possible or not? Is it possible or not? This is my question for the country like us.
Sahu sir?
Not possible. Look,
not possible.
We have to.
Not possible. Like one example I am giving, water shortage within the soil. In our village, there was no eucalyptus plant in West Bengal, Odisha, and Bihar, Jharkhand. But suddenly this thing has imposed by the scientists. We have grown up, and suddenly after a few years, they are saying water level goes down, so you'll cut all the plants.
Thank you,
this
sir.
Type of
I will take a couple of more observations or questions, sir. Satyajit, sir,
so
thank
this
you
is
so
my
much.
request.
Excellent point, as usual. Mr. Majidur Rahman, sir, would you like to add something or ask anything? Just if you can straightly ask the question, that would be great.
Thanks, Mr. Akram. Thank you for joining me. I want to request you to add some to discuss regarding our mental pollution and social pollution regarding the during the COVID time. We should add, according to me, regarding our mental pollution and social pollution. We should discuss, sir. I would request you to discuss regarding mental pollution and social pollution during the COVID time.
This is a very pertinent question. I'm really, Mr. Majidur Rahman is one of the most intelligent teachers from Bengal and a very famous one. He's a headmaster or principal of a very big and renowned school there in West Bengal, Dakshin Dinajpur, the district that I belong to. And it's extremely important. I think we are talking about the World Environment Day, the mental pollution that we are having, whether it is in the form of superiority, religious superiority, racist superiority, color superiority. I think we need to talk about. Anyone would like to comment anything? Maybe Tanvir Mirza.
So I think it needs separate one more separate this extensive session for this.
Yeah, mental pollution.
Excellent idea.
One session on mental pollution. Sahu sir, would you like to add anything?
No, mental pollution means basically ego.
Your voice is very low, sir. I think something happened with your audio.
Oh, I took water. Should not happen. See, it is mainly due to ego, that individual ego. Then the pollution starts. So pollution, it all depends on so many factors. It happens because of deficiency, comfort deficiency, economic deficiency, food deficiency. Because of some lacking of something, then the man will react. So then naturally, so we call it mental pollution.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else would like to? Thank you so much, Mr. Majidur Rahman, for asking this nice question. I want to come to others. So anyone, Mr. Arif Ansari, want to talk? I think you are on mute.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please ask.
Sir, my question is from. Sir, I want to ask what kind of pollutants are more dangerous to coral reefs, and how we can recover from this kind of pollutant to coral reefs.
All pollutants are harmful. All the pollutants. That's why it's called pollutant. So there are so many.
And sir, how we can recover the coral reefs from this kind of pollutants? This kind, any kind of measure?
No. See, you have to identify the pollutant parameter. How many 1,000 parameters are there? Which parameter you're looking for?
Monali Chauhan.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Can you unmute and talk?
Yeah.
Monali Chauhan, if you are there, you can unmute and ask your question. Ghazala Khan also wants to ask a question, so you can also unmute and ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
This is Ghazala here.
Yes, please.
Sir, I want to ask one question, which is, I think, very important in today's context, because all of us are suffering from COVID-19. So if we talk about developed and developing countries, don't you think following sustainable development rules is difficult in developing countries like India?
No. Why it is difficult?
Because, sir, we have to go for the development also.
Correct. Listen.
And if we talk about awareness is also very few people knows that how to protect environment. What are the policies? Are the government following the proper policies for the protection of the environment?
Now, listen. What is sustainable development? For sustainable development, it is an integrated approach. Only one factor will not solve the sustainability. Sustainable development, we have to combine your policy, your finance, your citizen, your technology, your so many factors. All these factors we have to integrate. Then only it is sustainable. Otherwise, if one of the factors is missing, then we cannot achieve the sustainable development. Okay.
So that's what I'm asking you, that if we see in these contexts, more patients are there in developed countries, more cases are there, more deaths are there. So don't you think the solution what we have is either minimize the rate of urbanization and industrialization and to stop it for certain limit, or new policies to be made?
Minimize the population.
Right. I think I will answer Ghazala's question, but not now. I want to answer it later, because I will give you the root cause of this problem. I'll tell you shortly. Just give me some time. I'll take.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. I thank you, Ghazala. Anyone else? Anindita Majumdar or Monali or Dr. P.P. Tiwari or Mr. Ahmed Tariq, if you can unmute and you can share your views, because you have raised your hands. So, it's my moral duty to ask once that if you have any queries or any question to ask. Otherwise, we have come to the end of the discussion. And before I invite my colleague, Mr. Salman Ahmed, to deliver the official vote of thanks, I would definitely request Dr. Wesam to share anything. But let me just share this view. Why are we talking this? Why do we need to talk about sustainability? Are we not educated enough or knowledgeable enough to understand these issues? The issue is, we know what is good for us, we know what is bad for us, but we don't act always rationally. So what is the root cause of this problem? Just let me, someone is trying to unmute. The root cause of all this problem, I believe, is greed and overconsumption. We need to understand these two facts very clearly, that as long as we allow multinational companies to produce food for you, to produce clothes for you, to produce, mobile phones for you, to produce ACs, air condition for you, to produce anything and everything that you use on your day-to-day life, believe me, 50% of the items that you use in your daily life are not needed. During the lockdown, when I felt that I don't need a lot of things, but I am using unnecessarily just because I need to increase or add on my luxury.
Just to add one thing, sir, it is a trap of consumerism and our blind follow-up of copy-paste culture. We are adopting unnecessarily.
Absolutely, sir. So if you see China, why China is polluting, contributing 28% of the population pollution, why America is contributing 15% of it? Primarily because they are industrialized, they are in the industrialization phase, and they are producing more than what they need to consume. And why are they producing more? Is to sell to the entire world. Why? Because they need more wealth for their country, because they want to be the superpower, they want to produce more. So 50 to 90% of the things that we consume, just think on this very seriously, we do not need many of this. So if we can, at the individual level, control our consumption and control the MNCs to rule the way we live our life, we don't need big malls, but still we are using it. Do you think you need big malls? You need to go to malls? Are you not surviving till date to go to malls? Are you not surviving by not going to movie theaters or watching movies or spending nights in pubs and bars? You can still live. So consumerism, we have to stop this greed and consumerism. Dr. Wesam, any point you'd like to add?
No.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining this conference and for the panelists and participants and for this discussion. And maybe just to add one more point on why we need to talk about it. I think we need to keep the discussion because it's part of it. We need to raise the awareness of people who are not really aware. And because you mentioned about this idea of the challenge of the consumerism of waste and extra waste that we don't really need, but it causes a lot of troubles to the environment and health. And again, I want to stress on the point that we need to keep a healthy discussion between all players, especially when we talk about the industry and the government. Part of it need to be awareness. Part of it need to have a smart discussion and argument with them, because it has to be a win-win scenario of argument. Not to cause troubles to the economy, but again to protect the environment and to protect the health. And that is very crucial because we need to find a balance. From an environmental point of view, it's not about, to me, I like to think realistic. And realistic approach, the economic development is needed because we need to meet the needs of the people as anyway. But at the same time, we need to think about the environmental and health dimensions, and we need to put things in perspective. When we know about the losses that caused by the pollution to the economy, that will make things easier for us to decide, and even to decide on some incentives for the industry so that they can control the pollutants. Why
Right.
we can consider the pollution control strategies, the pollution control devices as part of the CSR project for the community. And this is the best CSR project that can be done for the community because you are going to protect their health. Why the government can't give an incentive for the industry if they install devices to control the pollution? Why they
Excuse
can't
me, sir,
reduce
can
the
I
taxes?
interrupt you for a minute?
Yeah, please.
Don't you think we should have same rules and policies for all the countries for sustainable development so that developed countries will not exploit developing countries?
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Vesam, just touch upon it and then let's conclude.
Yeah, maybe just to conclude on this, and one more point on the policy. I think most of the countries, they have enough policies. The problem is with the enforcement. And when we this discussion being unhealthy, because the blame is more like it's a competition, it's an argument, it's unhealthy argument between the industry, the environmentalists, and to some extent the government. That should be a healthy discussion. That should be a healthy argument based on facts, based on trying to protect the interest of each body, and most important, we are talking about the public health. So the policy is there. It's a matter of enforcement. It's a matter of finding the balance between all these elements and to find a compromise between the needs of the industry and the environment and health
Thank you.
perspective.
Now, can I invite my colleague, Mr. Salman Ahmed, co-founder of the Policy Times, to deliver an official vote of thanks to all the audience, to all our speakers, and conclude the findings of this session and discussion. Yeah, you can speak. I have unmuted you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to conclude a very important session. Before concluding, I must admit that providing closing remarks after such an insightful and vibrant discussion, which was led by such a wonderful panels from Malaysia, Indonesia, and India. It was wonderful to hear from all of them, and that too on a World Environment Day 2020, where we are facing a very difficult situation subject to healthcare of humans. So how important is the lives of living creatures, not only humans on this life, living creatures is subject to the realization of importance of environment and climate change policies, of human acceptance, human transformation for the best of human life. So this is what we have discussed today, and we had some very keynote speakers from Malaysia also. So our guests mostly they focus most on the climate change activities, the biodiversity threats and challenges, the policies which has to be taken care with respect to energy.
Yeah, please go on, sir. I think this is a little internet connection issue at your end. So,
am I audible?
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah. So the subject and the topic was wonderful. In fact, it was said by one of the panelists that it is insufficient to take only, it is insufficient to accept this fact that this has to be extended with more discussions and with more international conferences. So I'd like to say that a very wonderful and insightful discussion has happened on the subject, and we humans are more responsible for whatever reasons we have been sent in this world by Almighty. So we have to take care of this environment and all these climate change activities with a, as you have said, the greed is the most important point which is leading to all this chaos in the world, and we have to be very more responsible. So I'd like to thank all the panelists for all the inputs and all the guidelines, and I'd like to convey this to the policymakers that we have to really think about this environment and climate change threats and challenges, what solutions we can give to the coming generations. So this is what I would like to say, and thank all our panelists. There's a long list of our guest speakers. So I'd like to thank all of them, including all our viewers, all our panelists, all our viewers from Malaysia, Indonesia, and India. Thank you, all of you. We look forward for another more sessions like this. And thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. UTHM, Dr. Vesam, it's been wonderful. And all our respected speakers, Amit Sahu sir, still here with us till the end. Tanvir Mirza sir for sharing wonderful views. And I think this is just the beginning. Policy Times has taken 4 different sectors as a priority to contribute and be part of in the advocacy, policy advocacy, and business networking format. Education, sustainability, technology, and healthcare. I think we will go big time into sustainability, and be with us. Let us contribute together to make India and the world a much more sustainable place in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you.